This is a mega compilation of the most disturbing crimes in gaming communities you can play in the background and fall asleep to, starting with crimes that happen in the Gacha Life community. Nehima Ramen entered the Gacha community as a friendly face. Her early content consisted of low-budget skits and comedic trends, quickly earning her a devoted following. On the surface, her channel was an innocent corner of the internet, but that was about to change. Nehima, or Miss Chocolate as she was famously known, was not late in attracting controversy and fire. Her first encounter with cancellation was when she was called out for using misleading and sometimes even straight up inappropriate thumbnails for her videos. This was especially problematic since the Gacha community was already under fire from many outsiders, who claimed that while the original game was kids-oriented, the creators in the community made content that was just the opposite. Nehima used disturbing pictures that were totally unrelated to the original content of the video, like one that was titled "When a Girl Posts a Picture," which had a very inappropriate image as a thumbnail. And it doesn't even stop there. Nehima would be known for baiting people to watch the videos she posts, especially by posting graphic thumbnails that were blurred in an amount that ensures the viewers don't completely make out what it contains. Like this one, which shows a character unaliving somebody through hanging. And when she was questioned about it, she just dismissed the people who complained as ranters and claimed it barely made a difference if there was a trigger warning or not. It wasn't merely the clickbait though. The core content in itself was deeply problematic. Nehima was repeatedly accused of creating and promoting characters who displayed a calculated and often disturbing hatred towards men. Her videos were filled with unsettling narratives that went far beyond a simple skit. And then she was also called out for posting a video about COVID-19 that made fun of the whole virus situation in itself. In the video, Nehima portrayed the virus as some kind of anthropomorphic being who's dancing to a song. This was all the more daring and disrespectful since it was uploaded during the time of the pandemic, when a lot of people lost their lives because of it. As pointed out by a viewer, this video seemed to be Nehima's attempt at destroying herself. Everyone also pointed out how Nehima has changed over time, from a figure they all loved to someone who was just self-obsessed and even racist sometimes. In a video inspired by a real viral Chinese model, she made the character wear a stereotypical Chinese hanfu, even though none was actually present in the video. And on top of that, like many, even Nehima got embroiled with Technoblade when she was accused of using the latter's death to virtue signal. This was because Nehima seemed to mention Techno's death where it was completely not needed. Immediately after his death, she made a video titled "When Someone Says Technoblade is Dead," in which she makes a Technoblade gacha character. And so it was no surprise that many saw this as Nehima's attempt at getting herself a share of online popularity. And even though she might have seemed problematic now, compared to the coming ones, she's like an angel. Bella the Wolf is by far the worst and most controversial gacha YouTuber out there. She's equally notorious both in and out of the community. Bella's real name is not known, but what is known is that she was born somewhere around 2005 and that she must be around 20 years old as of 2025. She started her YouTube channel in 2021 with an edit of the song Agora Hills with her own gacha character. The video did decent, and so Bella decided to post similar edits every now and then, but her normal videos would soon turn very abnormal. Bella decided to post a Gacha Life video where her own character was seen unaliving a soldier. This was so out of the blue that it confused a lot of her viewers. But because it was just one time, everyone let it pass, thinking that it had a context they were simply unaware of. But pretty soon they would know what it really meant. You see, by posting this video, Bella started her journey as a troll. She wanted to become popular by speaking badly about things people actually held in respect. And her first targets were soldiers and veterans. But it didn't stop there, because as she realized that this slander was getting her all the attention she wanted, she decided to change her target. It was religion this time. Bella decided to start posting weird drawings of Jesus and Allah, and started claiming that they were just wannabes. She also started saying that she was the truest of all gods, and people should follow her instead of them. For the most part, she expressed these opinions through YouTube polls and posts. In one poll, she asked everyone whether Bella mattered more than Allah and Jesus. And when he responded to that question, her answer was, "If you said no, you need therapy." It is posts like this that make it clear that Bella wanted to be at the center of controversy, which will ensure that she gets her followers. And she would call her own religion Bellism. And seeing people's reactions, she found out that this is the most effective way of getting herself popular. So she just kept doing it over and over again. But the final straw came again when Technoblade passed away due to cancer. Similar to our first case, Bella saw it as an opportunity for fame during this tragic event. So again, she decided to troll with her polls on YouTube, asking whether or not Technoblade deserved it. And when somebody answered it, the answer popped up saying, "He's a racist bum." And luckily for her, it worked. People started to talk about her, and famous creators even started calling her out. For Bella, this was a springboard for even more fame. Multiple subreddits were created dedicated exclusively to hating Bella. People like Tyrek Hort's LOL started calling her out in their own videos. He, for example, posted multiple videos where he dissected her behavior.
By Bella's standards, you love Jesus, you're a nerd. You love Allah, you're a nerd. You love Bella, you're majestic, not a nerd.
And that was actually the main reason her notoriety succeeded in moving out of the gacha community and becoming mainstream. Tyra's videos garnered millions of views very quickly. Now naturally, everybody was super mad at Bella's behavior, and so she started receiving death threats and even risked being doxxed on the internet. But the troubling part of this issue is her response to these YouTubers. She slandered them even worse and even created disturbing drawings. In one of her drawings, she drew herself holding Tyra's head in her hand, which she posted on her Discord server. And considering her server had a lot of members, most of them being sympathizers of Bella, they decided to follow suit and even created their own drawings where Tyra was beaten, put on a leash, and many more horrifying things. At the same time, a different YouTuber named PackGod, who's famous for confronting controversial internet personalities in his unique style, conducted a public trial with Bella. And while the video showed Bella getting what she deserved, it was more considered a collaboration between PackGod and Bella. It was just meant for laughs and keeping the gossip alive. And PackGod even released a diss track titled Animal Control about her, which just poked fun at the whole situation and seemed to be nothing but a normal fight between two YouTubers. Now on November 8th, 2024, Bella decided to upload an apology video. But even in that video, Bella reads her apology in a manner that makes everyone think it was just satire.
Hello everyone, Bella the Wolf here. I want to sincerely apologize for recent behavior, which has caused significant harm and distress. I deeply regret mocking Islam and Christianity, as well as my involvement in actions that have disrespected these faiths.
And other than that, her apology speech seemed very unemotional and AI generated, which just further infuriated everyone until her account actually got reported multiple times in the upcoming months. But the most disturbing thing Bella did was doxing a 10-year-old kid on her Discord server. She's said to have bullied the child multiple times before she finally doxed him. And this was such a severe thing that the kid started getting over 500 text messages from strangers who thought that the phone number was Bella's. It got so severe that the kid's mom had to go on TikTok to confront Bella about it.
But the worst part about it was, today I checked his phone while he was at school, and there was voicemails and text messages saying the N-word. There was pictures sent that were very, very inappropriate for a 10-year-old, inappropriate for me, and I'm 41 years old.
And that was the final nail in Bella's coffin. To remove some blame, Bella started posting that she was suffering from advanced cancer and was just venting out her anger. But despite that, nobody believed her, as Bella even admitted to creating the rumors so that people could sympathize with her. In December of 2024, her account would finally be banned on YouTube, which prompted everybody to feel like the burden was removed and that the gacha community can function as it always did. But this was pretty short-lived, since Bella's account is now reinstated again. But now comes the weirdest twist. Bella would change her channel's bio to exactly the opposite of what it used to be. She now praises soldiers and Jesus, and she would suddenly start posting photos of a hospital ward where she claimed she's staying in. This next creator, however, has managed to horrify a lot of people, both inside and outside the gacha community. Len Totally, or Alan, was a popular Filipino gacha content creator, known for story-driven animations, meme videos, and gacha skits that were targeted towards a younger audience. At his peak, he had over 500,000 subscribers and was frequently recommended in fan circles as a must-watch creator for beginners in the Gacha Life community. His polished editing style, catchy thumbnails, and interactive community polls helped him build a loyal fanbase, many of whom were again mods. He was especially known for creating relatable teenage narratives that included high school drama, romance plots, and transformation themes. For many fans, Len Totally felt like a safe and entertaining creator. That opinion, however, collapsed when a video titled Len Totally Exposed was posted in February 2021. This video laid out serious allegations of inappropriate behavior towards a 10-year-old fan. The video also included Discord messages, audio recordings, and screenshots of conversations that showed obvious use of emotionally manipulative language by Len. The alleged victim, a Gacha community member known online as Senpai Wolfie, spoke in the video about how the interactions began and escalated. In one of these chats, when Wolfie tells him that she's been watching anime, Len replies that she should perform obscene activities on him while she does it.
You've told me you've ahem to my pics, so asking for more wouldn't be so bad. Deep sigh. But do my pictures really turn you on that much? Yes, really, but videos make it. So the video I sent earlier got you so much you wanted to. Also, it's critical hit. My heart is gonna die due to excitement.
After all of this, on February 23rd, 2021, Len totally posted a public community message on his YouTube channel. In that post, he admitted that the incident had occurred, but claimed that Senpai had started the contact.
As much as I hate drama, it's not going to end well for me. I'm highly aware. Though again, my side is always part of this. The evidence is true. As much as I regret it, I did such things to someone. So it didn't really reach the point that I'm affecting her life in a bad way. That's what I think anyway. It was just me and her. The thing is that we were really open about each other, and I have evidence of that. I guess my mistake is simply going with it, even if it got out of hand. I'm still to blame either way.
What Len was set out to do was to partly blame Wolfie, who was clearly still a for everything that has happened. He admits his own fault, but quickly pulls back and says that he did as he did because she made him do it. Instead of a blunt apology, which Wolfie deserved, Len delivered a blunt allegation against her. Users on Reddit immediately documented the post and began calling attention to it in threads like r/Gacha Life cringe and r/Gacha Club, where moderators pinned alerts warning others about the situation. A detailed write-up was also added to the Gacha Tubers wiki, cataloging the entire timelines of events. Shortly after posting that message, Len totally deleted the community post along with the comments across the social platforms. He also uploaded a response video in which he stated he had been aware of what was happening, but offered little clarity or reflection.
I deleted all of my community posts, disabled comments in my video, and deactivated most of my social accounts. So everything will be stored in that one straightforward response in my community tabs. After panicking for a while, I was able to connect with some people and apologize to the victim herself. Luckily, she responded. She said that I won't be able to redeem myself, but she also said that I deserve a second chance and that I have to learn from the mistakes that I have done.
The video continued to gain traction. Fellow gacha creators including Rosie Closey, Gacha Vida, and Kiri responded with statements of support for the victim and emphasized that could never be justified by claiming the had initiated contact. And in the days that followed, Len totally began removing his videos from his YouTube channel and eventually set it to private by May 2021. His Discord server was also shut down and his Twitter account disappeared shortly after. By mid-2021, Len totally had vanished from the gacha scene entirely. Now let's talk about the disturbing side of gacha that you see all the time. Apart from the side of gacha that is filled with predators, there's another sinister side to the community where kids enjoy talking about leaving this earth. One of the most notable cases is that of Sweet Lemon, a 15-year-old kid. Multiple accounts confirm that she also went by the name of Avery and operated a Reddit account, u/and_I_scoop_uwu. She usually posted on the r/Gacha Life cringe subreddit, where the bad aspects of Gacha Life communities are openly criticized and discussed. Avery also had an active presence on this and other Gacha Life related subreddits. She also had a now deleted Discord server which was active and thriving. Everything seemed fine with her until May 22nd of 2020, when she managed to cause an uproar by posting an announcement on her Discord that she decided to leave this realm for good. Even though this was due to a variety of reasons, many people thought that this might be due to the ongoing harassment she was facing from somebody called Emily. Now we have no concrete evidence of who this Emily person might be, or even whether or not she's a real person, since her supposed Instagram account has now been deleted. But the story went something like this. Avery, or Sweet Lemon, started receiving gacha content in which her character was shown in a very inappropriate way. And on top of that, some screen grabs from Emily's deleted Instagram account show a post where Emily's character is standing over the dead body of Lemon's character. And not stopping there, Emily would also tag Lemon's account in the post itself. When confronted, Emily replied only rudely and seemed intent on bullying Lemon for unknown reasons. Many people say that the reason behind Emily's anger with Sweet was due to Emily's best friend dating Lemon, but this might be just a rumor. Not able to bear her, Lemon decided to expose Emily on Instagram. She posted pictures of their chat where Emily can be seen telling Lemon to unalive herself multiple times. Even Lemon's friends would confront Emily to get her to stop bullying her, but this was also to no avail. In fact, this time Emily would shift the blame to Lemon, saying that the reason she was doing this was because Sweet had blackmailed her and told her to unalive herself. And all of this would lead to Lemon announcing her self-deletion, which was also confirmed by her family. The reactions of this were of course very vigorous. The story got posted multiple times in multiple subreddits and people started calling out Emily, and she even went on to shame and blame herself by changing her Instagram bio to deranged a-hole. Some went on to create a subreddit called r/sweetlemons to honor Lemon, and they even posted fan art where they depicted her as descending to heaven as an angel, and they even wrote poems dedicated for her. Now amidst this chaos, an account named Gacha Life Community even started celebrating Lemon's death, saying that she deserved to be erased off the earth. But despite that, people would start debating amongst themselves whether Emily was at fault here, since she was only a kid herself, and kids sometimes simply didn't know any better. Lemon's cousin, who took over her account, tried to deflate the situation, saying that Emily might not be the sole cause of Lemon's actions, and that Lemon was facing stress in her real life from her parents and friends. And coming to Emily herself, she was allegedly harassed and bullied online due to this, and people worried whether this would push her on the same path as it did Lemon. Even her apology post would be criticized for being dishonest and insensitive, but little did everybody know that they were going to receive the biggest shock of their lives just after. Lemon was alive. On May 25th, Lemon posted on r/sweetlemons that she was indeed still breathing, and the whole thing was set up just to be a lesson for Emily. Now the reaction to this post was very explosive to say the least. People started calling her the worst person ever, since she thought it would be a good idea to use the topic of leaving this earth for her own benefit. She was also called out for exploiting the emotions of hundreds of people who were emotionally invested in this event. And as is natural on the internet, the tables turned really fast. People started supporting Emily and started attacking Lemon. She would start receiving actual death threats and soon disappeared from social media, and she would be gone for about 2 years. When she decided to reappear on the Sweet Lemon subreddit, she gave the reasons behind her behavior. She admitted that she was wrong, but she also claimed that her mental health in 2020 was a total mess, and she thought faking her own death would be similar to venting it out. And she would also admit that she wasn't actually 14, but this story perfectly shows us the climate of some gacha communities, where kids are given free reign and things unexpectedly cascade into pure online chaos. But this pales in comparison to another aspect of Gacha Life, which even made its way to the news. There's a feature in Gacha Life that enables everyone to create the content they do, the studio feature, where you can take multiple characters and create a storyline out of it. This then can be posted on other platforms. This is the exact aspect of the game that makes it so attractive and also problematic. The usual content people create using the studio feature is nothing but your run-of-the-mill TikTok trends, but with gacha-generated anime characters rather than real human beings. These videos are usually very childish looking, but don't let them fool you, because they have immense popularity and a fan base among young adults too. While most of the videos require minimal effort with crude text boxes and no voiceovers, some popular gacha creators have taken it a notch higher by hiring professional voice actors and making complete mini-series and movies out of them. These creators have amassed a large number of views and subscribers in quite a small amount of time, but this is only one side of the whole story. As with anything that is as popular and accessible as Gacha Life, people started using it to create stuff that is weirdly dark and disturbing. And even worse is the fact that in the case of Gacha Heat, the creators are mostly kids. Gacha Heat is a broad term used to categorize the genre of gacha videos that feature famous gacha and anime characters and questionable storylines. What makes this incredibly dangerous is the fact that most of the time, Gacha Heat videos seem child-friendly and are ignored by most of the security filters. They're tagged with normal hashtags, such as #GachaStory or #Gacha, which makes it possible for these videos to pop up beside normal gacha videos. So any kid who's a fan of gacha may unwantedly stumble upon these harmful videos. The characters are said to be in heat, and this is where the genre gets its name. But these videos do not just display weird interpersonal relationships, but they go on to normalize inappropriate behavior between siblings, family members, and even animals. Weird anime-loving videos are what actually brought Gacha heat to the fame it has. In one of the videos that you can watch on YouTube, I found acts of anime-loving, murder, human trafficking, and even worse stuff, all within the same video inside Gacha Life. And this is just one example of how disturbing content created by Gacha can actually get. Even though the creator behind this video can very well be a kid, many think it's actually adults who make these videos, which makes it a whole lot creepier. But these videos for some reason get a ton of views. So many Gacha YouTubers who try to be relevant, who try to get a piece of that pie, are forced to change their style and create videos similar to Gacha Heat. And they're even harassed online and reported if they don't do it. Now this is such a huge problem that multiple petitions have been created to tackle this very issue. Even though this whole affair might just seem childish and insignificant, it is very concerning when you imagine millions of children in all corners of the world are being exposed to the content that it seems normal, but it's definitely not. And after parents actually started finding out about these videos, Gacha Heat would eventually make it to the news, where parents were interviewed and were horrified at finding out that such unhinged content was floating around freely for their kids to watch. Looney, whose real name is Lucas Lee, was born in the US. He always loved drawing things and started animating from a young age. He also loved making smartphone games and animating in college. And soon he would be roped into the Gacha craze that was all over the gaming community, and would even experiment with creating some similar games. And even though he created a lot of indie games in the meantime, his real fame was with the game he created in 2018, which was called Gacha Life. Gacha Life was an instant hit, as kids loved using the creative options the game offered and also the ability to create their own storylines. And with that success, he soon created his own game creation studio, Lunime, which then became an official center for all his games and their updates. But it wasn't all praise and sunshine. People would soon realize the problematic aspects of Looney's worldbuilding, like the fact that he's guilty of making the game full of adult references, and then going on about telling people that it's a kid's game. At the beginning, many people didn't notice these things, but slowly things started to pop out. One of the many problematic aspects of his role was the creation of mouth designs for the characters. While most of the mouths the character have are normal, Looney made it possible for the characters to have a drooling mouth and a mouth with a tongue sticking out of it in a lewd manner, which actually made it possible to make these Gacha Heat videos in the first place. But it didn't stop at mouths. Even the positions the characters would be able to assume were really problematic. Players discovered, for example, that Looney added a thrusting animation for the characters, and many people questioned where such an option would actually be used, if not to generate adult content. And his preference for adult content would be shown when he announced that he would release a game in the Gacha franchise called Gacha Paradise, which was set to be an adult anime game. The proposed gameplay was in an RPG style, and the playable character in the game would be able to date many of the girls in the game and form a harem, and it would also include a lot of adult mini games that would allow you to get points. Now, despite these allegations, a lot of people still support the game and their creator, but nobody was able to support Hatsumi Ru. In 2023, Hatsumi Ru was one of the most popular and talented gacha YouTubers out there. Her videos were instantaneous hits, and her subscriber count grew like no other. While many created gacha videos, Hatsumi's skills in animating and drawing made her videos stand out. They were hailed as unique and fun to watch. She was so influential that many gacha YouTubers would cite her as their inspiration to make gacha content themselves. But that would change with the video titled The Truth About Hatsumi Ru that was posted on YouTube on June 16, 2023. In that video, the creator reveals with absolute proof that Hatsumi killed her friend, who was a... For the sake of this video, we'll call the victim Julie. Julie and Hatsumi met online on a website called Ponytown in 2021. Julie was 12 years old at the time, while Hatsumi was 18. Julie was initially excited to be friends with such a big YouTuber, and she openly admired her. But allegedly, Julie was with someone else at the time, but also added Hatsumi on Messenger nonetheless. Their initial chats were normal, with Julie showing her admiration, while Hatsumi got to know and familiarize herself with her new friend. But as time went on, Hatsumi slowly changed her behavior. She decided to use the trust and admiration that Julie showed on her to get what she needed. It all started when Hatsumi slowly started insinuating adult stuff in her chat with Julie. She talked about where babies came from and other stuff. And when Julie replied,
I don't. Bang. Wait, you're I know you. How? I really don't. Sure. Watch then. Wait, what am I saying?
Naturally, Julie reacted hesitantly, but let them slide by. But they progressed to a point where she just couldn't ignore these messages anymore. Sometimes Hatsumi would suddenly text inappropriate things, and then would immediately back away as if to check Julie's reaction.
Sit on your lap. Hey mommy, what? Let's play. Play what? Put your hand on my you know? What? Come on.
And she would just continue with these texts. And before long, Hatsumi convinced Julie to participate in roleplays. Initially, the roleplays were normal, but soon they turned into disturbing scenarios. In one of these scenarios, Hatsumi would put Julie in the role as a guy and would describe in detail what they would do to each other.
Then you start rubbing your on my Cree. Then you said, why don't you show me about how you did it on the table? Okay, I'm dead. And that dumb me did it in your table. I put my on the side of a table and you said, that's a good and then you put your on my
and not willing to risk Hatsumi hating her, Julie would simply continue with the act and listen to what Hatsumi was saying. But beneath Julie's reactions, a sense of hesitation and discomfort was always apparent. Now slowly, Hatsumi and Julie actually got into a relationship. And it is actually ironical that Julie was the one who was more concerned about the age gap than Hatsumi. She cautioned Hatsumi multiple times that their age difference could easily jeopardize her whole career. But Hatsumi didn't care, and she even became more obsessive over time and looked for ways to control Julie's real life. In one particular instance, Hatsumi lashes out at Julie because she matched her profile picture with another friend.
Probably just me. I wouldn't mind at all if you had other friends or matched with someone else, like I said. Because there's nothing wrong with having more than one friendship with someone. I don't want another bullshit to ruin me. That's just my view on it, and I'm going to stick to it. So sorry if you get hurt.
And as time passed, all of Hatsumi's and Julie's interactions seemed to follow a pattern that begins with Hatsumi forcing her love on Julie and then guilt-tripping her when she doesn't get the response she wants. This guilt-tripping would only escalate to the point where Hatsumi would threaten Julie that if she continued to disappoint her as she did, she will leave this earth on her own accord.
My parents scare me about this a lot, so I got scared. But don't worry, Lamau, I delete every pics and everything that have memories on me. Hey, you didn't need to do that, Cree. And if you feel uncomfortable with me, I'll gladly delete myself too. Foul. Lady, I never even.
Seeing this unfold, Julie quickly realizes that Hatsumi is not exactly the idol she admired and that she was predatory and manipulative at best. Hatsumi would also take things a step further by sending Julie explicit photos when she was drunk. She would also force Julie to return the favor, and when Julie refused, Hatsumi would lash out at her. Hatsumi's creativity would also be used in the wrong ways when she drew her OC and Julie's OC in explicit positions and sent them to her. It seemed like Hatsumi was blind to see how wrong all of this was. Now in 2022, they finally break up, but under Hatsumi's condition that they would be reunited when Julie would turn 18. Julie thought that this would be a good time for her to reflect on her situation and concentrate on school, but she would soon realize that this breakup meant nothing to Hatsumi. She behaved as if nothing happened and continued to be touchy and inappropriate. And as the roleplays continued, Julie finally confronted Hatsumi to stop behaving as she did and to delete the voice recordings that Julie sent to Hatsumi. While Hatsumi deleted them, she surely tried to use them to keep Julie under her sway. It might be even considered that Hatsumi would have blackmailed Julie if she wasn't a minor. At the same time, Julie started to vent out her frustration with Hatsumi's other friends. She talked about how she felt uncomfortable with Hatsumi's behavior and just now got the courage to actually talk about it.
Telling me how she was kind of uncomfortable and upset how Hatsu had been treating her.
Little did Julie know that even Hatsumi's close friend group was disintegrating due to Hatsumi's behavior. The fact was, Hatsumi would continuously resort to threats of unaliving herself whenever someone called her out. But all of that came to a halt when Setsuna Silver, one of her friends, decided to post a video exposing Hatsumi. And as soon as the video came out, Hatsumi would realize that she wouldn't be able to hide anymore, and so immediately privatized all of her accounts and disappeared from YouTube and the rest of social media. Now let's dive into the most disturbing crimes that happened in the Five Nights at Freddy's community. It's April 19th, 2022. The final book in the official Five Nights at Freddy's short story collection, Face Bear Frights number 12, Felix the Shark, has just been released. And as the readers go through the book's 3 stories, they begin noticing a strange pattern. Each story follows a character searching for something, only for that search to backfire, showing how curiosity can quickly turn into trouble. Now a few months later, MadPat, a well-known game theorist on YouTube, uploads a game theory video called Five Nights at Freddy Has Stumped Me Again. He focuses on what he sees in Felix the Shark, suggesting it points to a scrapped Five Nights at Freddy's ARG.
Maybe FNAF was seeding out clues for something similar. Or maybe there were plans to do a similar sort of treasure hunt, but the plans got scrapped along the way. I can't be sure.
He also explains that an ARG, or alternate reality game, is an interactive story using the real world, with clues hidden in actual locations for people to find. And because much of Five Nights at Freddy's lore is connected to Utah, and the story The Scoop follows someone searching around for answers, he points to Utah as a likely place for fans to investigate, and asks them to share what they discover on the game theory subreddit.
It seems like something's here, but if it is, I can't figure it out on my own. Maybe you're a theorist from Utah and you know the locations I'm talking about. Maybe you do know how to break open the files of a mobile game. If you think you've gotten yourself some answers, or maybe just another lead, head on over to the Game Theorist subreddit to post your finding.
Soon after MadPat's video, fans would start posting leads and comparing notes, and the search would move from online discussions to real-world locations. Some would start calling businesses in Utah, and others would drive out to places they thought might be connected, and a few even considered breaking into private residences, turning what starts as online curiosity into harassment for the people on the receiving end. And in early June 2020, a worker at a small diner in Utah would post on the Game Theory subreddit saying,
I work in a small diner in Southern Utah, and we got 17 calls over my shift asking if we were Fazbears. Come on y'all, it's common sense. Don't be harassing people over something that may not even be real.
The situation got so severe that the diner had to shut down the main phone line for the rest of the night, just to complete their shift.
Some people actually called the actual places of businesses in the towns that were referenced in the book. According to our subreddit, one place of business actually received enough annoying phone calls that they actually had to shut off their phones.
Now, while the thread remained active, some fans insisted that the post was part of the ARG, as others complained that the fun was being ruined. The initial employee tried to respond, but the constant back and forth became so overwhelming, leading them to eventually delete their Reddit account completely. In the days that follow, another user would ask the community to stop as well, noting that other locations were being affected, including a water park that once had a shark as a mascot, which some fans linked to Felix the Shark. The search would escalate even more, when somebody decided to upload a photo of a man's grave from 1987, suggesting to dig it up for clues, which of course is extremely illegal, and that is when most people would finally start stepping back, realizing just how far the search had gone. On June 9th, 2022, MadPat would then upload a response video, calling the whole thing a wild goose chase, and telling the viewers to stop participating.
I never wanted or intended anyone to bother real people, and it's never ever acceptable to harass an individual or a place of business.
And as a result, the search would lose its momentum. Even then, the consequences were already clear, since the hunt pulled real people into something they never asked to be a part of. But unlike MadPat, however, this next person was directly tied to the series itself, and became infamous for her actions within the community. In early 2020, a notable artist named Lady Feshy, who had previously been hired by Scott Cawthon, the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's, to work on the franchise, would start posting a series of controversial comments on Reddit. The discussion centered around a Five Nights at Freddy character named Mangle, who's gender fluid, and in these comments she would say,
She will always be a pretty girl for me, not this nonsense.
In another comment she would add,
Millennials can be triggered by anything. Why can't I be triggered when someone is calling themselves something confusing and non-existent?
And she would follow up with,
I wish back the times when a joke, what gender is your baby? It will decide when it will be old enough, was just a joke and not reality.
For someone directly connected to the franchise, these statements instantly faced a lot of criticism. She dismissed people's genders as nonsense, accusing them of making them up just to feel unique, and calling others easy to trigger. Now, as a result, Reddit would ban her from the platform, making it clear that her comments crossed the line. And over the next couple of months, users would repeatedly call out Feshy for her past comments. And because of her high profile in the Five Nights at Freddy's community, moderators would even personally reach out, asking her to address the situation. And eventually, she actually decided to respond publicly. On September 28, 2020, Feshy published an apology post. She opens up by saying she doesn't really want to apologize for what she said, but acknowledges that her words hurt innocent people. She then goes on to admit that her comments about gender identities and trans people were ignorant and uneducated. And she then explains that the cultural differences played a role, noting that trans people aren't common in her home country, Hungary. Feshy also claims that she's been harassed and provoked online to say more transphobic things, pointing to the abusive responses she received and emphasizing that this kind of treatment needed to stop. However, things would begin to take a more disturbing turn because of what she said next. But before going into that, I want to thank the sponsor of this video for making this possible, FreeCash. It might sound unrealistic, but FreeCash is probably the first legitimate company I've seen that pays you for playing video games. It's not thousands of dollars, of course, but it was literally free to sign up, and I personally had my first payout within just a couple of days. They have a 4.8 star rating on Trustpilot with over 200,000 reviews. And this is what FreeCash looks like once you sign up to their website, where you can see all the games that you can make money with. And I literally chose one of the most popular games out there, Monopoly Go. Before you start, you just need to make sure that app tracking is available so FreeCash can actually track your progress on the game. And within a couple of days and leveling up in Monopoly Go, I made 25 bucks for just playing a game. And on top of that, you can also get a $5 bonus if you sign up to FreeCash with this QR code or the first link in the description. You'll help out yourself and the channel immensely. And I can now just withdraw the money with PayPal or crypto. Depending on the location, the interface may look a bit different, but it works pretty much the same everywhere. And now let's get back to the video. After saying she regretted all of her past comments, she also mentions that she had received life-threatening messages over a fanfiction she wrote many years ago. The story, now deleted, was her own take on the Five Nights at Freddy universe, involving missing children and her version of the game's killer, William Afton, often referred to as Purple Guy, who she named Barney Miles. Her work sparked controversy because of how Barney and the scenes were written. The most infamous example appears in her fanfiction with Betty, the story's main character. In this scene, her death is described in grotesque detail, depicting Barney taking pleasure in harming her and others in extremely obscene ways. In response to the backlash, Fishy says,
I admit, I got really carried away to show how twisted my version of the Purple Guy is. It had some explicit undertones, but no actual scenes where Purple Guy hurts a It still wasn't appropriate since many fans are young. It would be very different if I write it today.
This still wouldn't be the end though, as more of her dark past would come to light. On January 22nd, 2023, a user named IronAiden07 would post images on Twitter, revealing that Fishy had participated in anti-Semitic groups. The post includes screenshots and commentaries saying,
She's drawn pictures of and is part of groups on DeviantArt. She even did a second drawing of these characters.
The post would quickly catch a lot of attention, with some users reacting in disbelief. One would write,
why do people idolize that garbage?
While another writes,
there's an
Within hours, these posts would spread across Twitter and the Five Nights at Freddy fan communities, with thousands of people seeing it. And so a month after that, Fishy would make a DeviantArt post addressing more allegations against her. She starts by acknowledging that she got permanently banned because of the recent posts linking her to these groups, responding,
yes, I joined these groups, that's very true. That was 15 plus years ago, when I was 18 to 20 years old, and just discovered anime/manga. Hellsing was one of the few mangas available in my language. I was super edgy back then and looked up everything with that design. Dark uniforms, blood, evil characters, I loved it. It took me years to realize these aren't edgy, but I totally forgot about the groups I joined. I was lazy to look up the groups I'm not active in anymore.
She would then address the accusations of being a clarifying that these claims were because of her fanfictions about a man she describes as a serial killer. Fishy would explain that at the time she was still edgy and her intent in creating Barney's sadistic personality was purely fictional, saying,
but so you know, murderer men do feel power and when they kill, and they love it. That's why they do it. Some clearly can't differentiate fiction from reality.
She also addressed accusations of being a transphobe, which she admitted were true. Looking back, she explains that at the time she was at one of the lowest points of her life, both mentally and physically, having lived with Crohn's disease for 17 years, and adds that when she's depressed, she tends to get angry and hostile, which caused problems with her family as well. Now around this time, more people start noticing things Fishy did in the past, including that in 2016, she traced several pieces of art created by other artists, with people from the community calling her out because of this. And she would publicly admit it, posting,
okay, since Kryptonite Dark Knight was really forcing this, I admit, I traced this image. It's not original.
But even after all of this, more stuff would come out about her. On February 23rd, 2023, a Twitter user named FrebO would post several screenshots of interactions between her and Fishy on DeviantArt from 2016.
Here's an ableism plus transphobia double whammy. I could go on for longer about how she encouraged me, a very obvious year-old, to keep reading her fanfics, but unfortunately most of the comments from that got nuked.
Later that same day, Frep0 would post again, this time sharing a private message from Feshi. The screenshot shows an unknown person relaying a message from a fan, asking if they could write a fanfic based on her work, begging her to not go along with it. And Feshi would brush it off by saying,
torturing Ben and kidnapping and hurting Betty, well, if the writing is good, I would read it.
With her name now completely out in the open, more and more people beginning to scrutinize her, and 2 days after the incident, she would address the screenshots. She admits that she did have those conversations with Frep0, but insists that Frep0 actually brought it up first. With no way to confirm her claim, she ends up saying that although the story was initially marked as mature and age restricted, she removed it for greed and likes, calling it a big mistake. And even Scott himself would eventually make a statement on Reddit saying,
hey everyone, I won't write much about this here, but I will say that Lady Fizzy no longer does artwork for Five Nights at Freddy's. Scenarios involving are disgusting and gross in any form, including fan art and fan fiction, and have no place in the Five Nights at Freddy's universe. It is my understanding that she regrets this time in her life, and I wish her best going forward.
This next person, however, was another well-known figure in the community and was exposed for things that would completely destroy his reputation. Squimpus McGrimpus was a YouTuber with over 350,000 subscribers on their YouTube channel. They're best known for being a pioneer in the Five Nights at Freddy's VHS genre, a style of fan-made analog horror videos based on the game series. Because of this, they became widely credited for their unique and intriguing videotapes online. Things would dramatically change on March 31st, 2020 though, when a year-old named Blue got into a conversation with Squimpus on Discord. At first, it was clear that Squimpus already knew Blue's age, as they asked how old they currently were, and with Squimpus being at the time, it could be argued that both of them were and that nothing wrong could happen. However, Squimpus would not only send Blue NSFW artwork, but would continue doing so for 2 years after they first met. By then, he already turned 20, while Blue was still only. Not only this, but a different user, who we'll talk about later on, would also confirm that Squimpus was already in several adult-oriented groups, but despite that, they would still exchange this kind of content with Blue, instead of using legal and consenting spaces. And soon enough, Squimpus themselves would confess all of their actions in their friend's private server, saying,
when I was I talked to Blue, who was about stuff, as in we both had interest in it. This was, and I'm not gonna beat around the bush with them. I entertained the idea of, if it's not then it's okay, for a very long time. I didn't realize how much hurt I was doing, not that I do. All I can say is that I'm willing to own up to my mistakes, in any way that I can. I did something really terrible, and it's more clear than it's ever been. Just know that I'm actively working to stop myself with these sort of things. Feel free to distance yourself from me until you're comfortable.
Shortly after, a statement from Blue themselves going into more detail about the situation started circling online. They wrote,
hello, I'm the one referred to as Blue. I was a fan of Squimp, being in her fan server for quite a while. While she initially approached me complimenting my work, things very quickly went and I eventually got uncomfortable, as she was well aware I was and continued. I was awestruck because she was an idol, and then scared to say anything because she was popular.
All of this would finally be exposed to the world on March 18th, 2023, when a Twitter user by the name of Burner Account posting a thread against all of the screenshots against Squimpus, as well as Blue's statements about the situation. Now, as soon as this post gained attention, Squimpus made another response on the same day, apologizing for their actions and confirming that all of what Burner had posted about them was entirely true. They ended the tweet by saying that they were the only one truly in the wrong, and that they were going to leave and take months or years before returning to the internet. With Squimpus being gone from the internet and their last video being over 4 years old, it doesn't seem like she's coming back anytime soon. This next one though involves another popular creator whose actions would go on to be one of the darkest scandals in the community. On August 2nd, 2025, a user by the name of The Tickler posted a public letter on Twitter regarding a well-known trans Five Nights at Freddy's YouTuber named GoMotion, otherwise known as Jody. This wasn't any ordinary letter, however, as it went into detail about Jody's years of questionably disturbing behavior towards them. It all starts on March 19th of 2020, when Tickler, who's at the time, receives a Discord message from an 18-year-old Jody asking about their fan game team that they have and if she can be a part of it. After a few days of chatting, Tickler would eventually join a server with Jody and start interacting with her through voice channels, which unfortunately would be the first of many. Their usual conversations start with Jody dumping her emotional problems on him, with Tickler consoling her during those moments. One example of this was when she opened up about her history of self-harm.
Also, I sort of used to self-harm kinda a lot. I was so depressed, I didn't know what else to do. And like, you get a legitimate high for it. I still don't hate the idea of doing it. Not that I would, of course, but it relaxed me so much. Don't ever do it again, please. It felt really good, I'm not gonna lie. I promise I won't do it, for you.
But even then, Jody would confess even more disturbing things.
I did bad things, mostly when I was into I was rude to people, other channels who made edits, drove one kid to attempt to leave this earth. I don't talk to them anymore. I abused people. I was generally just kind of a dick to everyone. Jesus. Well, I wasn't the best person either, so I guess that's like the past now. Gotta focus on like now.
After this, Tickler would explain that Jody elaborated on the situation in a voice chat. She told them she had instructed this person to turn on his camera so she could watch while he attempted to leave this earth. From that point on, the way they interacted began to change, with Jody's fixation on Tickler quickly turning into obsession. Just a week after they first met, she would constantly burden Tickler with her struggles over wanting to be a certain gender.
I just wish I was a cis girl. I understand how upsetting that could be. Hopefully, eventually it's possible. I really want you to be able to have that. You deserve that. I just want a so bad. I just want to be happy. My stupid especially right now. It's uncomfortable as hell. I just want it gone.
Now several days would pass, and Jody would begin revealing yet another side of herself to Tickler, describing herself as having body dysphoria. In a few instances, she would talk about crying, as she was jealous of Tickler's voice, and would say that they're lucky to be born in the right body. Tickler was undeniably off-put by this, and would even apologize even when she hadn't done anything wrong. But not only that, Jody even went as far as stalking Tickler's boyfriend, who we'll call John, out of jealousy towards the two of them, saying that she wants something like that for herself.
Looked at John's DeviantArt again. Heh. Oh gosh, I'm sorry, this isn't your fault. Why do you look at it if it just upsets you? How did you even find it? I don't know. I have a jealousy problem. I just wish I was you so much.
And this kind of behavior would continue.
Looking at John's Twitter, smiley face. I'm just trying to focus on my breathing right now. I'm trying to push the pain out. I'm specifically jealous of you and your boyfriend. I just really want something like that myself.
Over the following months, Jody's messages about wishing to be a woman would continue. But apart from that, in late 2020, two statements from anonymous users we'll call Grigory and Kwan, who also know Tickler, surfaced from the internet, revealing the terrible things they went through with Jody herself.
Although my messages with Go Motion were rather brief, some things stick out to me. She would usually call me slurs when I had noted that they made me uncomfortable in the past, and would raise her voice in voice calls at me at times. She would dump some pretty heavy stuff on me without much warning, but nothing is as weird as she'd confessed to me regarding Tickler that she would herself to art made by them, imagining herself as them or characters drawn by them and their art. There were often times in voice calls where she made me feel lesser, insulting me and berating me, even when I was trying to have a genuine conversation. The breaking point for me was a friend telling me Jody saw Tickler interacting with a trans woman, whom she took what the trans woman was saying to Tickler as flirtatious, and began talking her, saying things as vile as she doesn't even pass. With that happening, as well as her total transphobic rants on Twitter, I knew things weren't going to change.
It turns out Jody has been doing these things for a while, including using Tickler's artwork in inappropriate ways and keeping it a secret from her for years, which Jody decided to admit to Tickler in March of 2020. What Tickler learned far too late though was that Jody would fantasize about being Tickler in intimate ways. In a conversation between her and an unknown person, she would admit that
I told her about the drawings she made and how I'd have time to myself and look at them and stuff and imagine myself looking like that, and she's having a tough time processing that, but she only knows about the drawing. She doesn't know how I imagined myself as her, or that I imagined myself as anybody else.
But that wasn't the end of it either. On the very same day Jody admitted this to Tickler, she suddenly began bringing up the idea of visiting during the summer, in real life. For Tickler, the conversation was deeply unsettling, and even though Jody treated it casually, Tickler felt conflicted by how sudden the suggestion was. But as Tickler assumed that Jody seemed sorry for the things she'd done, Tickler simply couldn't deny her visit in the end. As soon as Jody arrived at their house in June of 2022, Jody's actions would only get more terrifying over time. The first couple of days seemed normal, but the day that they went on a hike at a local park, Jody started complaining that her legs hurt and that it was all the walking she was doing. But later that afternoon, after they had gotten home and Tickler's mom was out of the house, Jody admitted that it was all a lie. Jody revealed that the reason her legs hurt is because of her constantly stretching and flexing them to redirect blood, trying to distract herself from feeling while being close to Tickler, and immediately after saying that, Jody would take Tickler's hand and slowly guide it under her blanket. Now surprisingly, Tickler would actually lean in and kiss her, which in hindsight was, according to her, the biggest mistake of their life, as she felt that Jody's manipulation had pressured her to do all these things. Now throughout the following months, their relationship would only keep getting worse. Jody would become deeply obsessed with demanding Tickler's attention every day, growing jealous and aggressive whenever they tried to spend time with their friends, which in turn caused Tickler to lose the people they cared about. She would even admit to even more horrifying things in one of their chats, saying,
"I hate my dad. I'm upset about how I'll never be accepted as trans by my family. I want to kill them all."
Now right after this, Jody would continue to harass Tickler's friends from her Discord server, even after promising she would stop. Now seeing her as someone who would never change, Tickler eventually reached a breaking point. So in December of 2024, Tickler decided to stop communicating with Jody altogether, but Jody would refuse that, and her behavior would grow even more unstable because of that. She would keep spamming Tickler with messages, despite being told that they want space, and would even stalk Tickler across multiple social media accounts, and even publicly threaten to hurt themselves over the situation. Now months would pass, with Tickler no longer being in contact with Jody, and things would finally start to quiet down until May 21st, 2025, when Tickler would discover that Jody had been making hateful statements and extremely transphobic posts on Twitter, saying, "Let's become a statistic together." No longer wanting to tolerate her actions, Tickler would finally decide to gather all of this as proof of Jody's actions and expose her in front of the entire internet through a document. However, this isn't the end, because 4 days later, after the expose got posted, Jody would upload her own response document detailing her side of the situation. In it, she denies having taken advantage of Tickler or manipulating them, immediately using her mental health issues as justification for her actions. She also admits to being obsessive, but immediately blames Dad on her OCD. And she would also argue against Tickler's claim that she told a kid to turn on his camera so she could watch while he tried to leave this earth. She says he simply wanted to call on Skype and didn't explicitly say that anything was wrong. She adds that this situation happened because they were both causing each other issues in a Minecraft server, and she had no idea that this would result in him trying to hurt himself in front of her. Now Jody would also talk about how she used to fantasize by pretending to be the opposite gender, which she specifically did to Tickler, saying,
"A few months after T had turned while I was 18, I did things to myself as them. Similarly, I felt euphoric imagining myself as female. There were no ulterior motives to this."
And she would end her document with an apology to Tickler, saying,
"T, if you're reading this, I'm so horribly sorry for how I ruined it."
To this day, even with all of the backlash and constant hate towards Jody, she still continues uploading videos on YouTube. Tickler, on the other hand, and many other people who were affected have now just started to get out of this long-standing nightmare. But this wasn't the case for the next individual, who became notorious for a lot of disturbing allegations against him. It's February 26, 2018. A German game developer named Nishi, also known as Blackout 1912, together with his team, releases a Five Nights at Freddy's inspired horror game called Dormitabus. The game is heavily inspired by the original Five Nights at Freddy's universe, but became infamous for its own story, focusing on a girl named Maria, originally based on Chica, one of the main animatronic characters from Five Nights at Freddy's. In this version, she suffers a brutal death at the hands of Garvey Wright, a character designed to parallel the franchise's antagonist, William Afton. Almost immediately, the game gets recognized by most people in the community, even getting playthroughs from popular YouTubers such as Markiplier and Daco, making it undoubtedly one of the most popular Five Nights at Freddy's fan games of 2018. However, over the following months, many began to notice how disturbing the game truly was, even for a horror game. Its popularity gradually decreased due to criticism of its gameplay, story, and voice acting. But just 2 years later, it all went downhill because of one man. On November 12, 2020, a well-known game developer within the community who requested their real name not to be mentioned and who we'll call Andre, uploads a video exposing Nishi for having done deeply horrible things to multiple users online. It all goes back to 2016, when Andre meets Nishi and becomes friends with her. And although things seem fine at first, their friendship begins to fall apart due to one factor. Nishi, at the time, is known for being incredibly rude to every person he essentially talks to. And with this in mind, it doesn't take long before Andre starts witnessing how Nishi has been harassing people in the Five Nights at Freddy's community.
Nishi at the time was known for being a very, mean person. He was very critical of the fan game community, and he would attack people like King Carter, Sama Gamma, if anyone remembers that, Adam HD, and all that.
Which leads to Andre cutting things off with Nishi completely. He makes it clear that he doesn't want to be associated with someone who's verbally assaulting people he doesn't like, seeing that Nishi has grown even worse.
Eventually it got to the point where I ended up cutting my association off with him. He was becoming a very bad person. I just didn't want to be involved.
And he surprisingly doesn't take it well. He begins harassing Andre in various ways, and with the people affected by his actions, a decision is made to post a video exposing him 2 years later.
This led to him harassing me. It started a whole rivalry between us. He would send his friends after me. He would comment on my game jolt. He would do all sorts of things. Eventually, this experience, along with many other people's experiences, led to an exposed video on him back in like 2018.
The video posted in 2018 covers dozens of allegations, including multiple instances of Nishi's abusive and disturbing behavior. These claims detail him having depraved obsessions, taking pleasure in the idea of physical abuse, manipulating people, cheating on his partner, and using others for inappropriate activities. With this amount of information against him now entirely available online, Nishi vanishes from the public community.
This led to Nishi leaving the FNAF community and basically going under the radar. And it worsened our relationship too.
And unfortunately, the video somehow disappears from the internet as well. But even after the leak, Nishi wouldn't stop going after Andre. The harassment continued, and he eventually even began stalking him, blaming only him for making the video. On a random day in the same year though, Andre would be added to a group chat out of nowhere, and he would discover that the group consists of girls who had indecent interactions with Nishi. It's also at this exact time that Andre starts to finally connect that these girls are the ones mentioned in the expose, all of whom Nishi allegedly used for engaging in adult activities online. Out of all of these people though, there's one that really stands out to Andre, which he disturbingly refers to as the year-old.
Out of all these people, there was one that really stood out to me. It was the person who I'll just refer to as the year-old.
He explains that to his understanding, Nishi somehow got into contact with this person, which led to multiple illegal acts involving somebody not of age. He also discovers that Nishi sent an inappropriate photo of his behind to several people inside this group chat, specifically targeting the year-old. Shortly after revealing this piece of information online, a number of people would refuse to believe these claims, one of them being a user named Honko, who begins publicly defending Nishi and accuses Andre of fabricating everything. And this sparks a whole new thing. Andre would point out that Honko has been harassing him for years too, going back as far as 2017, which makes it hard to take his statements as anything more than a personal grudge. Now, by the time these allegations surfaced, Nishi already left the internet, leaving one final message on his GameJolt account saying,
"Jesus Christ, just leave me be. I don't want to live in your heads rent-free. I've moved on, and you should as well. Bye."
After this message, no further updates about Nishi emerged online. And although his allegations never disappeared, many felt that Nishi has gotten off far too easily, given his long history of abusive behavior and everything he was accused of. This next individual, however, is another creator whose game never got finished once people learned about the sickening things that he actually did. Now, fan games have always been a big part of the Five Nights at Freddy's community, with some of them gaining almost as much recognition as the main series itself. And for a while, Night Shift, a Five Nights at Freddy's inspired game, looked like it could be one of those projects. With several people involved in its development, as well as many fans looking forward to its release, the game was beginning to look like one of the next big projects within the community. But despite that, it would come to an abrupt end, as behind the scenes, things weren't quite as they seemed. On August 5th, 2022, a 13-year-old user named JenPen began talking to Xyler Guy, who was Night Shift's main developer, after responding to a message he sent in a Discord server they were in. At the time, Xyler was well over 18, according to a friend we'll discuss later. However, despite that age gap, in one conversation, Xyler would send Jen a video that seemed normal at first, but moments later, it would begin flashing images of explicit material, such as inappropriate depictions of drawings of small humans, as well as suggestive and NSFW images. And Xyler Siler didn't just send these types of images once either. Over the course of a few weeks, while already knowing that Jen was a little person due to his age being displayed in his bio, he would continue to send unsettling content he called memes, which included even sensitive imagery depicting men. Now eventually Siler would descend into sharing even more sickening material, which was highly inappropriate content involving, again, little humans. As Jen would describe it,
in total there were 2 images of with their private parts, and one which was the most disgusting picture that I've ever seen in my life.
He went on to explain that what Siler sent to him contained 2 images. One of the pictures, according to him, showed 3 small humans engaging in activities that were horribly obscene. Now surprisingly, Siler wasn't the only disturbing person in the team. His friend named Blue was the co-director and main programmer of Night Shift, and he was caught talking inappropriately with a small human too, while possessing and distributing extremely indecent images of small humans. After gathering all of this evidence, Jen would finally reveal all of what they did to the entire internet. And in 2023, they uploaded a post containing a document on the gaming site GameJolt, which would lead to Siler and Blue disappearing from the internet until now. But what this next person did was so severe that it horrified the entire community. It's September 11th, 2014. Mattia Vera Oyarzo, a 8-year-old boy from Chile, has just made his YouTube channel named Peluchin Entertainment, with his channel name meaning plushie in Spanish. He starts uploading videos with his collection of Disney and Teletubby plushies as characters. But about a year later, his content would suddenly change. The innocent, kid-friendly videos he uploads turn into crude animations, and before long, his channel is almost entirely dedicated to covering the Five Nights at Freddy's series. Now he continues to make these videos for over 3 years, and the videos in total would garner over 12 million views and gain him a substantial number of subscribers. Around this time, however, a lot of horrible things would start appearing, not just on his channel, but affecting him personally as well. In one instance, he admits to his audience that he frequently watches and laughs at gore videos at such a young age, and he also becomes more and more socially dysfunctional, intentionally getting into conflicts with other creators for no reason other than to stir up drama, which would eventually result in strikes to his channel, as his recent videos at the time technically qualify as cyberbullying and harassment to YouTube, and eventually his behavior would even get worse. In November of 2018, for example, Matthias uploads a now deleted alarming video on his channel titled Tortazo, which translates to smack, showing him with his head blurred out, violently grabbing his cat by its limbs and fur. Community sources also say that the annotations about what he's saying in Spanish start appearing at this time, with him saying,
"Before I killed my cat had 2 broken limbs."
He then continues to shove his cat around on the ground and steps on it, with annotations appearing again saying,
"My cat now has a wounded tail. It's a little bit dislodged too."
He then kicks it onto the couch, grabs a wooden kitchen spoon to whack him before the video ends. And soon after, he would also upload other videos showing him hurting the cat with cat food and putting him in a toilet. While his toxic behavior has already been escalating for months before this, the backlash he's been getting up until now pales in comparison to the outrage this video brings. Although the video is now deleted, he would respond to the accusations of animal abuse in a pinned comment, which when translated reads,
"Seriously, there are animals who are saying that this is animal abuse. What an exaggeration. Ha ha ha. I don't know what's going on through their minds to consider this animal abuse."
Now what's even worse is that just a few days later, Matthias claims on his channel that the cat had passed away because of natural causes. Now the video would spread online almost immediately across various online forums, which ultimately led to him being doxxed, as some wanted to see revenge on the cat's behalf. A hashtag would even start circling around called #JustinForJason, which was the cat's name, and multiple change.org petitions would be created to terminate Matthias' channel and call for legal actions against him. Unfortunately, Jason the cat isn't the only animal who fell victim to him. On December 15th, Matthias adopts 2 new kittens and would proceed to do the same sickening things with them as he did to his original cat. On one particularly gruesome video, he would record himself dropping one of the kittens into a toilet and washing it and watching it struggle. Now several English-speaking creators would begin exposing the situation to a much larger audience, and he would then upload now deleted tweets where he says,
"I don't know who's been telling you that I regret what I did or that I feel bad about my cat dying. To me, it's worth nothing. Besides, I haven't done anything to it, and I regret absolutely nothing."
Thankfully, as more attention grew on Matthias' actions, an acquaintance would finally step in to save the cats, posting a picture of them on Facebook with this message.
The cats are away from Matthias. As the only that knew where they were, I went to fetch them, and right now they're under the care of my family, while we look for people who will give them an appropriate place. Soon we'll speak to an animal rights advocate to promote their adoption.
At the same time, people online would also reach out to the police, who later released a statement on Matthias' case, saying,
"We informed the prosecutor's office regarding these occurrences, which ordered certain procedures that included an investigative process, such as putting together witness reports to establish the identity of this person, his parents, and how the events occurred."
Just a few months later, more of his actions would start coming to light.
This first one I believe you've probably heard of a couple years ago because it was kind of big news. The channel's called Pollution Entertainment. I believe it was run by a year-old Spanish-speaking YouTuber who filmed multiple videos where he was beating, kicking, pulling, throwing his cat against the wall until he eventually killed it on camera. He then adopted some kittens which he flushed down a toilet trying to drown them and beat them as well, and it became kind of a big deal, at least in the Spanish-speaking YouTube community.
In August of 2020, almost 2 years later, after he took the life of his first cat, Moist Critical would bring attention to the story once more, highlighting the fact that in the wake of the original story, several other Spanish-speaking channels would begin assaulting and ending the lives of their cats in the name of Matthias.
But he's also inspired a trend among Spanish-speaking YouTubers where they go out and beat and kill cats in his honor. For some reason, this deranged loser has become some hero to animal abusers online.
Now thankfully, as Moist Critical's video gained more attention over time, the majority of Matthias' many YouTube channels were terminated a month later. However, on November 17, 2021, Matthias, on yet another account he had created, would suddenly upload a video titled, "This November 25th, I will be sentenced. Will it be my end?" The video opens with a short clip taken from the footage of him, just before he made his cat leave this world. He then says it was considered one of his most heinous crimes, to the point that 4 police cars were sent to take him into custody, while also confirming that during this time he was being treated by a psychiatrist. Matthias ends the video by directly stating that on November 25th he can finally be sentenced for the crime he committed 3 years earlier, and just a few days after going to court he would upload an update on another channel, which would also end up terminated, writing,
"I haven't had a definitive response about the sentence yet, so I'll start uploading videos again. And no, this wasn't an invention of mine. Lying about judicial matters is a crime. It's obvious that I wouldn't lie about that. I'll let you know when I receive a definite response."
And with his new channel named Matthias, now active on YouTube, he continues to create and upload content from time to time, which is crazy to think about. And while opinions remain divided over whether he deserved to still have a platform or not, the name he built for himself was something that will never be erased. Up next, we'll talk about the most unsettling crimes in the Roblox community. Inhe, also known as Tyler, was a considerably popular Roblox YouTuber with over 100,000 subscribers, while also being a community manager of one of the platform's popular games at the time, Toilet Tower Defense. But just as his channel started getting momentum in 2024, it came to an expected halt, due to one certain individual discovering all the things he's been doing hidden from public view. On May 22nd, 2024, a well-known YouTuber and Roblox critic named Ruben Sim, who's known for exposing misconduct and controversies in the game community, would post a tweet saying,
"One of the games in Roblox' upcoming classic event is managed in part by a person who's attracted to young humans. Inhe is the community manager for Toilet Tower Defense. He targeted a vulnerable year-old in the middle of a breakup to take advantage of her in indecent ways for several months over Discord."
This post would also come with tons of screenshots revealing inappropriate conversations between Tyler, who's 20 at the time, and an individual who was under the age of 18. Among these messages was one from July 7th, 2023, where Tyler would be seen talking to a year-old girl we'll name Melanie, who seemed to be breaking up with her boyfriend during this period.
"Chill out, there's so much more for you, I guess, but I feel like I was only made to be someone's girlfriend. That's not it at all."
Since then, Tyler and Alani would continue to talk to each other from time to time, but just 5 months later, on December 2nd, he would start to send these kinds of messages to Alani.
"Must do it. Must make Alani have my child. Grr. Who's daddy's good girl? Who's daddy's good girl?"
It's important to know that at this time, Tyler had actually told Alani that he was 20, 4 entire months prior to this conversation. But in the same day, he would state his disgusting intentions to her. He's seen saying,
"How about you don't talk for a little, get used to it, and I'll tell you when to talk. We're gonna make you become a big girl today."
To which Alani replies with,
"What even am I supposed to say? Sounds like a plan? Don't you dare keep me waiting. Grr. What if I do? Yes, daddy, is the only thing that should come out of your mouth.
This expose quickly circulated across not just on Twitter, but on the Roblox community as well, and as a result, the game decided to terminate Tyler's account on its platform. Ruben would also state that the company needs to care about user safety more than just when it impacts their brand image, as they had ignored his report regarding Tyler and only once took actions after he posted the evidence that he sent to them for everyone to see. Tyler, on the other hand, would go on to show the ban message of his account on Discord, displaying that his account has been moderated for violating their terms for use of inappropriate content or behavior, to which he said,
"I don't know what I did."
Following the situation, Tyler also had his community manager role on Toilet Tower Defense, as well as the staff position in the game taken away from him. However, this wouldn't end here. Days later, after the tweet exposing Tyler was published, Ruben would make another post stating,
"The in-house situation is getting worse. I was sent evidence last night that he paid a year-old, who we'll call as Eva, 1,000 Robux to engage in inappropriate acts with him on Roblox in a condo game."
To put that into perspective, Robux is the platform's virtual currency, and 1,000 of it is worth about $12 in real money. And as it turned out, on October 31st, 2023, during the time that Tyler was in contact with Alani, he would also engage in questionable conversations with Eva. The screenshot would start off with them seeming to be doing a rock, paper, scissors game, and after Tyler would win, Eva would go on to say,
"Wow, young person, your turn, I just turned 20.
The usual conversations would just continue, and a few weeks later, Tyler appeared to be negotiating with Eva on how much Robux she would get for her to agree to participate in indecent roleplays with him in the said Roblox condo game.
"Nope, I'll buy it when we go. I want 2k then. No, we agreed on 1k. 1.5k, 1k. What are you building? Are you working on my game? You're getting 1k Robux and a free intimate session. You should be happy."
Eventually, Tyler and Eva would join the game and engage in these inappropriate roleplays with each other. He would give her instructions on the game chat, and when he would start doing horrific things to her game avatar, he would say,
"Good girl."
Shortly after leaving the game, Tyler would buy Eva's in-game clothes on the Roblox store to pay her with the money. A few days would pass, and another conversation between them would start off with Eva requesting Tyler for more Robux, to which he replied with,
"Are you gonna go back with me then for it?" "Yes." "Well, I can till later anyways. You also have to VC me tonight."
Although what exactly happened immediately afterwards is unknown, Tyler would later be seen messaging Eva on a random date, asking,
"What hand do you use? For, you know, raised eyebrow emoji. Shaking salt? Right. What about doing inappropriate things? LOL."
With all of this evidence out in public, Tyler's name as well as his online career had been completely destroyed now. And while he didn't face any legal consequences for his actions, he wouldn't have the platform to exploit anyone ever again, at least hopefully. This next individual though almost got away with what he did. Kelvis Garmanian, otherwise known online as Kellogish, was an incredibly popular Roblox YouTuber in the early 2020s, and with how his family-friendly content gained a huge amount of attention within the community, he eventually rose to fame due to a combination of a series on the game Friday Night Funkin', and especially Roblox simulator games. As time went by, his energetic and entertaining persona would allow him to reach even greater heights in his online career. Roblox itself even recognized his success and invited him into the Roblox Star program, a program reserved only for the top creators, and by August 2021, he had amassed over 500,000 subscribers, cementing his status as one of the most notable Roblox YouTubers of the time. But unknowingly to him, this would be his final moments of success. On August 20th of the same year, another Roblox YouTuber who went by SpyroTunes would post an unsettling video on the platform entitled,
"This Roblox/Friday Night Funkin' YouTuber is a danger to young people. Kellogish."
From here, this would trigger a negative chain of events on Kelvis, and what he did would all publicly come to light. It all began in late 2018, when a conversation between an 18-year-old Kelvis and a 18-year-old girl named Pyronat would take place. Although it wasn't clear exactly how they first met, Pyro would first be seen confronting Kelvis about the time he had previously dated a 18-year-old, to which he replied,
"There's a reason I said yes to her. She doesn't act like at all. She's very mature for her age. Of course I do wait until she's till 18 for other stuff."
From here, things would only get worse. In the span of a year, they would start developing a romantic connection with each other, and on November 25th, 2019, Kelvis would even state his unspeakable intentions with Pyro.
"But yeah, if I was dating a year-old when I'm 18 to 19, I wouldn't get intimate until like you were to 18.
His act of outright relaying his desire to take advantage of her would continue over the following months. And then on April 4th, 2020, he would level up the things he would say to Pyro.
"You would also be the perfect height for doing things to me. Just saying. Perhaps? No, it's true."
A day later, Kelvis would then tell Pyro about wanting to engage in inappropriate activities with her in a changing room of a clothing store, with their chats being,
"I want to do things to you. Yes, I can see us being intimate in a changing room of a clothing store. How romantic. I like being a bit risky." Eye peeking emoji. "Literally what we're doing is risky, lol. I love you. I love you." a ton, babe.
And he would even double down on wanting to be intimate with Pyro.
I'm starving. Eat my... Someone's being inappropriate. When am I not?
Moments later, he would also admit that he was aware of what he was doing.
Trust me, what I'm doing is very basic. Let's just say inappropriate texting, babe. Maybe you just don't want to see me in that way, which is sad, but it is what it is.
Even with this fact, Calvis revealed himself even more by begging for inappropriate requests and admitting that he'd already asked for this kind of thing before.
I mean, I'll still appreciate pictures, cute emoji, but I won't be like asking for them so much as before. If you send them, just know I love them so much. Heart symbol. Do it at your own pace for now. Heart emoji. I'll send you when I feel good. Do you ever feel good, lol? But yeah, for now we should just spend more time texting. Maybe even VC sometimes to get closer. I think I'll know over time when I can be inappropriate with you. Heart symbol. Just know I'll still be fantasizing a lot to you though. Eye peeking emoji.
Shortly after, Pyro would finally start voicing her own opinions about this.
I'm not that comfortable with it because I don't know what to say back. And like, I definitely do have intimate feelings for you, but like typing it out or reading it is weird to me.
However, Calvis would only insist on what he wants her to do, with him replying,
well, you definitely know how to tease, and you have a body that could be used for revealing pictures, babe. And I'm being honest about me finding you attractive. If you aren't good with words, then what about unclothed pictures, babe?
This would pressure Pyro even more, and not knowing any better at her age, she gives in. Calvis, on the other hand, would push his request even more.
I don't know, I can do that once in a while, not on command though. Well, you didn't let me save the inappropriate pic, cute emoji. All I have are teasing pics that I don't even want to say how many times I fantasized to.
What makes this even worse is that Calvis actually had a girlfriend at the time that he's in a public relationship with, and it wouldn't take long until his partner would also take notice of their conversations. Deciding to reach out to Pyro, she would ask her what was going on between the two of them, and after that she would confront Calvis herself, which would end with him only denying even knowing Pyro in the first place.
After that, she confronted Mr. Kel, but he denied even knowing her in the first place. That's wow, that's just crazy, man. Then who's the that you're every night?
But now that his actions are finally starting to catch up to him, Pyro herself would also address him about the issue. Afraid that this entire situation would ruin his online career, he tries to make Pyro an offer to keep her quiet about his actions. Unfortunately, after discovering that Calvis had a girlfriend this whole time while he was taking advantage of her, Pyro had enough of this, thus finally confronting him on his actions and ending their relationship entirely.
You've changed. You're still as manipulative. Shows him their past conversation. I don't know, I don't really recognize that person anymore. Recognize it, cause it's you, dog.
With this, it wouldn't be long until he would get defensive and start denying anything that happened, with Pyro saying,
I'm not wrong, you're only looking out for yourself. Not really, but how would you know? My god, cut the gaslighting, please. What does even gaslighting mean? It means you're manipulative.
After this conversation, Pyro would finally cut contact with Calvis. It's also at this time when she would reach out to Spyro in his Discord server, where she would bring up all the things that Calvis had done to her.
Just a couple of days ago, Pyronet and I were just shooting the in my Discord server when she brought up that she had some dirt on an unnamed Roblox influencer. Me being myself, I took massive interest into it, and we jumped into DMs immediately. She told me the full story of what had happened, the horrible shit had said to her, and how he basically got away scot-free.
This led to both of them reporting Calvis on Discord, which caused the platform to launch an investigation against him.
From there, I convinced her to speak out about what had happened, and our first plan of action was to message Discord, because I mean, he was in their partner program. Surely they wouldn't want a Discord partner doing those horrible things to on their platform.
And a few days later, Spyro would then publish a video calling out Calvis on how he took advantage of a 15-year-old girl, and in a very short amount of time, Calvis would inevitably get flooded with backlash, as well as get his Discord partnership revoked, including from his server with tens of thousands of members in it. And on September 1st of 2021, the Roblox RTC Twitter account, which documents news and updates about the platform and its community, would tweet out,
"It's confirmed that Kelogish has been removed from the Video Star program and his Roblox account was terminated. His star code no longer works."
This would fortunately leave Calvis with no chance of reviving his career or returning to the platform, or so we thought. On November 13th, not even 3 months after Calvis was banished from the internet, a new Roblox YouTuber would start to gain a lot of attention under the username Koofy. And with how his content would constantly blow up in popularity amongst young people, he too would eventually garner over 500,000 subscribers by June of 2022. It's also at this time where he would collaborate with another creator named Kaka V420, who's also a Roblox YouTuber widely known for his meme videos on the game. The two would link up in almost every video, which ultimately helped Koofy reach 2 million subscribers by August 25th of the same year. However, this amount of success would only go to waste. On September 8th, 2024, Kaka would release a video titled
The End of Koofy.
Although the video would start off detailing about the two's journey together in their careers, Kaka would go on to talk about having certain suspicions about where Koofy came from.
I could never quite figure out where Koofy came from. He seemed to know all the dramas too well, was a natural at creating content, was surprisingly good at Funky Friday, and had a weird obsession with playing simulator games 24/7. Every piece of information led me to a dead end.
It would also appear that Koofy had revealed to Kaka that he was a 23-year-old man from Germany, and with this fact in mind, along with information Koofy had shared about himself and the way he carried himself online, it would serve as a very clear resemblance to Kelogish, who was also a man from Germany.
There is a clear line between character and individual. I don't look like my character IRL, and neither does Koofy. Every time we interacted, it was like we were the same characters from the videos, but occasionally I caught a glimpse of Koofy's true self beyond the character. From his age to his home country, I now had a rough idea of who this guy could be in real life.
But after giving this information, Koofy would suddenly stop being active on Discord and YouTube altogether. And with that, Kaka would take it upon himself to confirm whether Koofy was truly Kelogish all along. On one occasion following his investigation, he would remember having access to Koofy's analytics in his YouTube channel. He started searching for any useful information he could find, and it wouldn't take long for him to discover this.
Koofy had shared his analytics with me, allowing me to see every piece of analytic on his channel, right down to his blocked keywords. And what do you know?
I am not in danger. I am the danger.
After gathering all of this evidence, Kaka was completely sure that Koofy was Kelogish, and once Kelogish would start being active again, Kaka would finally confront him once and for all.
This was the day I decided to finally confront him.
Yo, you're alive. What's good, man? How you been?
I've recently noticed the hidden keywords on your channel, added up the stuff you told me about yourself, the people you associate yourself with, and figured out who you really are. I'm not gonna expose you or tell anyone, but I don't think I'd like to associate with you any longer.
As Kelogish would try to explain himself out of the situation, it would serve to be of no use, with the amount of proof against him, and eventually Kaka would convince Kelogish to delete his Discord account, as well as cutting off any contact with him.
And he tried explaining himself, hoping to stay in contact with me, but it was no use. I was going to cut him off regardless of what he said. In the end, we agreed he would delete his Discord account and stop including me in his videos. I cut him off for good.
And with this video released for the entire internet to see, many well-known Roblox YouTubers reacted, prompting millions of people to learn Koofy's true identity and his past actions towards young people, leaving him again with no platform to exploit anyone once again. But unlike him, this next person not only committed these horrible acts himself, but also influenced an entire server to believe they were normal. Just Scooby, also referred to by many as John, was a Roblox YouTuber with about 16,000 subscribers, known for his gaming content on the platform, alongside fellow creator Napkin Nate. While working together, Gooby would gain a bit of popularity, particularly due to Nate promoting his channel in nearly every video. But in August of 2020, Nate would suddenly stop uploading videos. Fans, wondering what happened, started digging and suddenly discovered that he was facing multiple allegations, including him not paying a designer for virtual items he sold on Roblox and supposedly being arrested for domestic violence against a family member. To add to the mystery, Gooby would appear in a video by Roblox YouTuber Nitso, saying Nate stalked and abused him and didn't pay him properly even after 10-hour recording sessions. As a result, people in the Roblox community would start digging even deeper to see if all of this was actually true, only to uncover even darker and more disturbing things done by Gooby. On December 8th, 2019, Gooby and his Discord members were seen harassing other people's servers by raiding them for no reason whatsoever. While doing so, some of his people would spam highly provocative remarks and even upload explicit photos and videos involving young people. You gotta keep in mind, the majority of people in the server and the servers affected were already under the age of 18, and even though they were aware of this, they would still continue on with what they were doing regardless. A few months later, Gooby would also be seen saying very inappropriate things about certain animals in his own server, as well as inviting his members to expose other people's private and personal information, which he would also direct towards young humans and other YouTubers. For example, on one occasion, Gooby, under the username God and G$, and another user named Still Winning, talk about doxing a young girl and saying some indecent things towards her. His behavior of encouraging others to do these kinds of acts would result in many unaware people getting their identities and home addresses leaked, and even a 13-year-old boy getting his router broken by Gooby's moderator. To make matters worse, Gooby and his moderators would also harass another 13-year-old boy known as Liam from YouTube. They would say a lot of vile things to Liam, such as,
"You Liam, and you other people watching those videos, I hope you leave this earth, you fat. I hate black since I'm racist. Hey Liam, Gooby sent us after you. Liam, if you're reading this, I like men, and I will violently assault you.
And once Liam had started to bring awareness on Twitter about Gooby's influence on these people, Gooby would just outright block him. On June 6, 2020, Gooby would also admit to receiving an explicit photo from a young girl named Phoebes. In this particular conversation on their server, he would say,
"Bro, Phoebes sent me the cutest ever, and I'm melting. I guess unclothed photos can be cute, but..."
Aside from this, Phoebes would also reveal later on that Gooby had actually encouraged her to date online and hooked her with another guy in his server to date her.
"Bro, give me 2 days with Phoebes. I'm finna get it for free. No cap. I'm a player."
And 2 days later, after another moderator replied to his message,
"Do it. Done. Sends photo."
Given how Gooby had influenced the server to commit such despicable acts, it's not surprising that he engaged in them himself. He would send inappropriate pictures of himself to a lot of young people over Snapchat, along with disgusting messages about them. Even worse, he and some of his friends would post highly obscene materials involving small humans, NSFW content, inappropriate and gore videos, and even unclothed photos of himself within his own server. A member of his server named JC Dorsainville would also confirm this to be true, saying,
"Gooby himself used to post gore and explicit content frequently in a server full of small humans."
Soon after, a few members checked whether this was true, and they found chat logs of Gooby allowing these kinds of materials on his server. And if that wasn't bad enough already, a screenshot also surfaced of Gooby sending an explicit photo and an animated indecent image to a young person. And he would also seem by defending his weird beliefs by saying,
"Technically, loli is legal."
A month later, Gooby would also take his level of depravity even further.
"I'm glad you hurt your sister. Your little sis too young to handle it? I see. Yo, do you cover things up after, or do you just mess with your little sister? Can I do the same to you?"
These are just some of the massive amounts of disgusting messages that Gooby had plagued his server with. And as if that weren't enough, he and his moderators would also interact with an underage individual we'll call Joy on Snapchat. Their conversation logs would start with Gooby's friend named Stefano saying,
"Can I do an inappropriate act with you? Is it a yes or no? No, but the age of consent there is what? You're down bad. But when you're 18, can I? No, not even when I'm 18.
After this would happen, Gooby would also be discovered to have done this kind of thing, except he went for people much younger.
Gooby had Alexa on Snap. Alexa, who is and Gooby 20.
On top of that, another young person who we'll call Megan would also come out on her inappropriate interactions with Gooby on a video expose of a YouTuber named Destructor on Gooby himself.
"He's a PDF. That I know. So has Gooby done anything to you recently? He added me on Snapchat years ago and would text inappropriate things. He thinks it's some sort of joke. And I at the time was really young, but looking back now, what's said was gross. He'd call me mommy and beg me to send a picture of me for him. What did he do to you? He pretty much tried to take advantage of me. Luckily he didn't try and meet up, but I've had suspicions."
But it didn't stop here. Gooby would even take advantage of young people over Discord as well, such as making disgusting requests of them every time he would get them on a voice call with him. An individual who we'll refer to as Irie had this to say.
"Any names you know he's taken advantage of and manipulated by any chance? What was Gooby like in his Discord server? Gooby acted as if he was a god for his server and encouraged toxicity. He also posted NSFW and gore. I also saw him post illicit materials involving small humans before, and he did mention that he had a lot of unclothed pictures from young people in his server. Did they try harassing, doxing, anything like that to you after you left? No, but if they found out I was telling on them, they probably would. I did see the moderators there dox a lot of people, and they encouraged to."
Another victim who we'll refer to as Selena would also state,
"He asked me for unclothed pictures when I was underage. Of course, when I told him no, he was playing it off as a joke. He would also talk about me doing inappropriate things to him. I never sent him anything, nor did I do anything indecent with him, but he would always push for something out of me, whether it would be a selfie of me or just hear my voice. Outside of those kinds of pictures, what immoral things Gooby did to you recently? He didn't do anything. He would just talk about me doing stuff to him very explicitly. Like what exactly? Like doing inappropriate things to him and sitting on a slab. Yeah, I remember he would do that a lot. When Gooby did this, how old were you when it happened? I was either
In addition to all of that, another person we'll call Carla would say,
"This was years ago. I'll admit I used to be a fangirl of him in Napkin Nate, but it scarred me. Gooby advertises Discord for fans, and I've never used it before, but I joined it. He knew I was a girl and he flirted with me. The word, an inappropriate word, was said frequently by him and his moderators. I asked him how old he was, and he said he was 20. He didn't show his face at the time, but Gooby was inappropriate and would flirt with tons of girls in the server, while to the guys he would be toxic or rude to them."
And another individual who we'll call Gwen would also state,
"We talked when I was about I'm now. Well, let's just say I do live in fear, because he does have pictures of me. If I refuse to show him pictures, he would tell me he would leak my face, leak my information, or even dox me. Several times he would ask me for my address to come see me, but I would always go around the question. Me and him would call recently, because I was manipulated too, and this one call was going as usual, begging for unclothed pictures and etc etc. Then he randomly made a group, he invited me to it. Then like 4 other guys were there, and they started saying it was a joke, and I obviously wasn't. I think the 2 of them were even doing inappropriate things to themselves. I'm not 100% sure. So I left the call, and then Gooby started texting, "Why did you leave?"
These are only a handful of cases compared to the overwhelming number of people who came forward about his actions. And on top of it all, Gooby and some of his server members would also admit to owning inappropriate content involving little humans. They would talk about having these materials in their server's public chat, and once confronted, he would yet try again to justify his immoral behavior.
It's only an attraction to small humans if it's multiple people. If it's only one person and no one else, it's naughty, weirdo.
To make everything even more disturbing, Gooby and his friends allegedly forced a young girl to leave this earth. There's confidential proof such as funeral photos of this anonymous individual, which I obviously won't show uncensored. If this is true, I want to offer my condolences to the girl's family, and I hope that Gooby or whoever was responsible will be brought to justice. On May 27, 2023, YouTubers such as the Dark Creeper, Destructor, and the Risk God Linguine, whose channel had now been terminated for unknown reasons, would work together to investigate Gooby's entire situation, as well as figuring out a way to get him arrested. Eventually, they claim to have discovered Gooby's possible real identity and location, though nothing has been officially confirmed. Following this, they would eventually come across somebody who had valuable information about Gooby, named Nitso, the same person who was one of the people to come out about Nate allegedly being arrested.
So first of all, I want to check the validity of the claim that you're like going around to these Gooby videos and claiming that 60% of it's wrong. Is that your account? Is that you?
Yeah.
What 60%'s wrong with the video?
The thing about him being a doxing and like, you know, saying the N-word, maybe the hard R. How do you know a lot of that is like facts?
I have mountains of Discord screenshots. I've been trying to contact people that can disprove any of these screenshots. He openly talks about CP being traded in his Discord server. How is that? How is that taken out of context?
He sent like CP stuff.
There was blatant on his server. He's made comments on his server about it being sent to him.
Seeing how Nitso was insisting that the videos exposing Gooby contained screenshots that were taken out of context, the 3 YouTubers would then address the huge amounts of conversation logs that will leave Gooby no way in justifying all the things that he said.
Do you just, like, not trying to be disrespectful, obviously, do you guys just not have anything to do?
You're asking why I'm doing this. It's because, like, don't f with. Do you like to f with? Is that why it's so hard for you to grasp?
No, obviously not.
And whenever they would ask Nitso to back up his claims that the screenshots were either fabricated or taken out of context, he would keep saying that he couldn't give an explanation for reasons he couldn't say. And when more videos against Gooby were being uploaded, it didn't take long for him to finally respond.
People blame me for Napkinate quitting YouTube, and think they have a sense of justice in terms of these false allegations towards me. They take everything I say out of context, and there can be proof provided if needed for each thing taken out of context. I can admit I was edgy, but these allegations about me are completely untrue. They will literally just take things out of context. Also, they Photoshop and not provide the messages beforehand of the conversations that would easily prove that these allegations are false.
He would then go on to say the people who made videos about him were spreading misinformation and tricking others into believing them. And not long after, the Dark Creeper would make a statement replying to this, saying,
"How could any of this evidence be photoshopped? Multiple victims have come out about Gooby and his friends. So okay, we're now saying that all of those victims are lying? That's just a shitty excuse to justify his behavior. The response was just bad in general, and was just a poor attempt to justify his criminal behavior."
As soon as these allegations would get a bit of attention, Gooby would private his Twitter account and completely stopped uploading videos on his YouTube channel, while deleting some of his videos for unknown reasons as well. He hasn't responded to any of this ever since. And with these YouTubers trying to find out the truth and get him behind bars, he doesn't have the ability of roaming the internet without having his name connected to these allegations anymore. But this wasn't the case for the next person, who carried out his predatory intentions beyond the screen. Juke was a rising content creator who had over 13,000 subscribers on YouTube at the time, and a considerable amount of followers on Twitch as well. But just when his popularity was starting to get more traction due to his content revolving around famous Roblox FPS games, such as Phantom Forces and Bad Business, his actions would become the sole reason why his life would completely change forever. In late August of 2021, a 19-year-old girl, who we'll refer to as Sophie, began to frequently talk with Juke, who's 21 during this time, over Discord. Their conversations continued, and it wasn't until October 18th that they began interacting more actively. On that day, Sophie would be seen requesting to join Juke's server, which she would agree to, and after a while, their conversation shifted to Juke wanting to send more pictures, which could be considered as suggestive content of a creature's mouth wide open. Juke himself was aware that this could be inappropriate to send to someone who he didn't even know the age of, asking,
I don't know, answer this, how old are you? Okay, maybe you shouldn't, because I'm...
Despite this, Juke insists, saying that it doesn't show anything weird except for an open jaw, and Sophie agrees. And shortly after, Juke sends images, and their messages begin to take a turn to something entirely different.
Hey, come on, you can cuddle with me. That sounds really nice. Right now, this pillow isn't very warm or fluffy. I'm both of those things, surprisingly. Heh, cutie. Rubs the back of your head and down your back softly.
About 20 minutes later into their conversation, the chats get increasingly inappropriate, with them starting to engage in intimate roleplays, and soon after, Juke is seen becoming very direct with what he wants to do with her.
I bite my lip hard as I rear my head and grip your head, pushing you closer against me. I close my eyes, sniffling deeply as I go along with it. Yeah, I push once more and let it all out, breathing heavily, my tail wagging. I take it all in happily, letting out small noises. I rest my head back, panting as I try to calm down.
In the afternoon of October 19, a few hours after engaging in the suggestive roleplay, Juke tries to justify the things he said to Sophie, claiming he was drunk at the time.
Drunk Juke just likes roleplaying a lot more than sober Juke.
Although half a minute later, he willingly contradicts his previous message by saying,
"But considering I reread this morning and still got excited while sober, it'd be safe to assume it was good."
And with his ignorance of realizing the weight of his actions, he eventually does something that crosses the line even further. On October 24th, as they're participating in the same kind of roleplay once again, Sophie would go on to say,
"Don't underestimate my thighs though. I want to see them. You'll see them soon. Be on top of me, please."
But if you think it can't get any worse, Juke takes this as an opportunity to show something that's completely inappropriate.
"I love you too. I'm trying to take a good picture. You don't have to if you don't want to." No, I want to. I love you."
He then sends an explicit picture of himself. Days later, he pushes this kind of behavior to an even more terrifying degree and shows Sophie a 30-second video of him doing inappropriate things to himself, with some of his props his viewers regularly see in a stream on his table. After this, the two start to talk about how their relationship is developing further over time, with Sophie even stating that Juke's now her boyfriend, with his reaction being he can't wait to be her husband. Sometime after, Juke, who's under the assumption that they're now official, proposes an idea to Sophie.
"What if I were to tell you that sometime next week I might, come over?"
Following this, Sophie asks her mother, who we'll refer to as Amy, for permission, to which she responds with questions regarding who Juke was and where Sophie met him.
"1 second, what do I say? Nerd, what do I say?"
Juke then begins convincing her to tell Amy that he's 19 instead of his real age, as he's just turned 22 during this time, and Sophie sends him another screenshot of Amy's message saying,
"A lot of people I know are online people. I don't go off about them being dangerous. How old is he and where does he live? When would he show up and how long would he stay?"
Juke then replied,
"So we said 19, right? Should I say 19? You don't really look 19. You look, well, 22. I mean, if I clean shave, I look 19. LMAO."
Moments later, Amy decides to give a half agreement on letting Juke, who's posing as a 19-year-old, to come over, which leads Sophie to respond,
"About to get intimate. Just kidding. Imagine next weekend, like, if I could come over and they weren't there."
A little while later, Juke tells her that he had a nightmare of Sophie laughing at him as he shows up on her house, telling him that he was stupid for believing her, and that she only let him come over just so he'd be caught by authorities for being in a relationship with a young human like her. Sophie then answers back, explaining that she hates for things like that to happen, and that she won't do that to him. She also mentions another predator who'd done horrible things to underage individuals, saying that Juke's a good guy that just wants to meet his lover in comparison to him. Juke then responds with,
"I want to hug you, kiss you. I want that so bad. I feel like I'd be really anxious. I'm not good at that stuff. I want to put my hands on you. I want to feel you. I want that more than anything."
Now 3 days would pass, and on November 15th, Juke would send Sophie an update on his current location, showing him heading into her estate, and soon enough he messages her.
Five minutes away? Yes, more like 2.
A few minutes later, Sophie replies to Juke saying,
"Where are you going? Come back."
And as soon as they actually meet each other in person, there aren't any further messages between the two of them, until on the afternoon of November 16th, after the two of them seemingly part ways with each other in person, Sophie sends Juke a strange message.
"I got to my room and just broke down in tears. I've never been happier. I finally got what I wanted. Thank you for being the biggest reason to keep going. I love you."
This alone implies that something with that level of impact had occurred on the days that they have been together, and just a day after this conversation, what follows is a graphic description of what happened.
That's hot. You know what else is hot? The temperature. Yes, or me being with you in an intimate way. How sore are you, by the way? Next time I come over, I want to be close to you. I want to share myself with you. You understand? I've never felt more comfortable with anyone than I do with you. And your hoodie keeps reminding me of that. I love you.
A few hours later, he would add more horrific details to this. And just when it seems like Drew can't get any more disgusting with his actions, he uploads the pictures they took into their conversation. The first one shows him with Sophie's cat, and the second one with them snuggling in their bed, while the third one is an appropriate one, and the last picture of them is holding hands in a restaurant. Yet, even though they grow more attached to each other, their relationship eventually comes to an end. In mid to late February of 2022, a YouTuber named Jax publishes a 2-part video expose about Juke, revealing all of what he did to Sophie for the world to see. As it turns out, before putting these videos together, Jax had already gotten information from a friend who'd previously spoken with Juke, which gave him enough evidence to call him out. He explains in great detail that ever since Juke and Sophie have met in person, their bond gradually started to slowly decline, until Sophie was no longer within his reach, as their relationship had completely fallen apart.
Just know that even outside of what happened and after what happened in real life, that the relationship eventually fell apart and that the victim is safe right now. Just know that the victim is no longer within reach of Juke.
Prior to uploading the 2 videos, Jax had actually confronted Juke in the DMs, after a mutual friend who'd spoken with Juke linked the 2 of them together in a Twitter group chat. The conversation starts off with,
"Okay, I'm here. Explain yourself. What's there to explain that hasn't already been explained? You've probably seen what I've done, and I assume you don't want it to happen to yourself. I've seen your work, yes. What I did was gross and wrong. I've already acknowledged this and intended therapy, and I've done everything within my power to better this. I feel even if I try to convince you, you won't buy it. I don't know why I did what I did, or said those things. It was awful and disgusting, and I've talked with several people and I feel I've changed. All I wanted to do was to go to therapy and just try to forget about this. This isn't who I am. I swear to you, with every fiber of my being, this will never happen again."
And after expressing that he's visibly regretful and scared about this whole situation, he goes on to say,
"There has to be something I can do. Anything."
With Jax replying,
"I'm going to ask you to do a number of things when I tell you to. When the video comes out, I want you, your voice, and your admission of guilt. It'll look much better on you in the future if you do this. Secondly, I want you to publicly apologize on your YouTube and terminate your Twitter, Discord, and Twitch."
Jax then addresses the fact that if he doesn't do all these things, people will have a witch hunt against him. And Juke responds to this with,
"I can't delete that stuff. That's my life's work. Twitch will likely delete it anyways. When me and multiple other big YouTubers report you to Twitch and get you banned. So you either leave with a shred of dignity or have everything taken away from you without prior notice. If I delete my YouTube and left Roblox completely, would you consider not doing this and constantly keeping an eye on me to make sure? Please, Twitch is my everything. I'll delete my Roblox account and YouTube, but please, I'm begging you."
But as Jax had already decided to bring Juke's horrifying actions to light, Jax lets him know that he must face the consequences of his actions, and that he must apologize on every single platform or else it'll make his punishment even worse, reminding him of the reality of what he's done. And on February 15th, the same day the first part of the video expose against Juke has been uploaded, he would post a public statement detailing his many misdeeds. And to everyone's shock, Sophie isn't actually his only victim. He identifies a few other individuals by aliases that were under the age of 18 at the time, talking about how he met each of them and the things he's done to them. But little did he know that even with exposing himself, as well as publicly apologize, it wouldn't be enough for him to fully escape the outcome of his actions. On this very same day, Sophie had actually reached out to Jax and would send him the entire chat logs with Juke, with the hopes that he'll finally be brought to justice with this much evidence. Shocked by even more context on what exactly transpired, Jax, under the username of Screechy on Discord, confronts Juke, who goes by Velvet, asking what he can say about this.
"Did you or did you not visit Sophie in real life?" "I did. I deleted my Twitter as you asked. I shouldn't have went. Clearly I know that now. I knew it then. I even had doubts before I left. There's absolutely no excuse for what I did. I'm not trying to frame anyone or frame this as I'm not guilty. I know I am. I just wanted everything to be over. One friend told me not to make a video when I got banned. One friend told me to keep it private. And another one told me to make a video talking about why I was banned. So I didn't say anything. I went to therapy. I was stressing out. Ever since all that stuff went down, I've been bettering myself."
Later on in their conversation, the 2 of them actually end up talking in a voice call, with Jax pointing out his actions, along with calling out the fact that Juke had basically engaged in illegal activities with a young person.
When, early in the call, I told him that what he had committed was statutory and that he had crossed state lines to have for the he said, yeah, I understand.
Even with this confrontation, Juke would go on to claim that he doesn't know why all of this happened, and that the reason he'd gone there is because he and Sophie were friends.
He said he was there because the victim and him were friends, when there are lots of screenshots I've already shown that kind of disprove that. He further elaborates that when he left the house, his intention was just to hang out, and that's it.
Surprisingly, Juke asks him what to do regarding the situation, and Jax would manage to convince him to turn himself in, to which he agrees. Jax then goes on to say that Juke himself knew that there's a high chance of punishment being somewhat lighter if he reported himself to the authorities, and that he could visibly see from Juke's words that he really wants to give in.
I call him out as bull, saying, no, I know everything you've said, you can't lie to me, essentially. And he said, well, what do I do? And from there, the conversation gradually spiraled out of control, at least on his part, to where he eventually agreed to turn himself in.
But when things were finally starting to take a turn for the better, this happens.
However, the morning after, let's just say I got some unfortunate news where someone, being this person in close relation to Juker, convinced him that somehow he had not broken any laws.
With how this person persuaded Juke that he didn't do anything wrong, Jax would go on to claim that all of Juke's actions were considered illegal under the federal law, and even shows why that's the case.
He crossed state lines from his home state to the victim's state, which means that everything he did falls under federal jurisdiction. However, this person in close relation to Juker, who most certainly is not a lawyer, convinced him that because the age of consent in both his own state and the victim's state is that it's okay, that it doesn't matter, you can just sweep it under the rug.
Right after Jax informs Juke that this person is wrong, Juke simply replies with,
"Just don't upload the video, or this will get worse for the both of us. That's all. I suggest you listen to me. I don't know how old you are, but this will not end well. Please. There's a reason I wanted to just go to therapy and move on. What I did is inexcusable, but I don't want to fight someone in court. So please, just don't upload the video. I'll leave Roblox, I'll delete my YouTube, and I'll continue therapy. But if you upload the video, I'll go to the police about you. Good day."
As a response, Jax proceeds to elaborate that what he's trying to demand is inexcusable, and just days later, after the videos exposing him have been uploaded, Jax drops a bombshell of an update about Juke.
Juke was arrested on March 1st and is awaiting his court date scheduled for tomorrow at 9 AM. He's facing charges for enticing a young person into indecent acts.
And this will spark a huge wave of attention across a lot of social media platforms, and Juke, who's now identified as Jonathan Mitchell, has now been sentenced for 5 years in prison. This next individual, however, recorded everything he did. At 11 AM on June 16, 2024, a 15-year-old girl who we'll refer to as Olivia has just told her mother, who we'll call Mary, that she will be taking their dog out for a walk with a friend in the park. Thinking that this would just be an ordinary stroll, Mary allows her to do so. However, a few hours would pass, and Olivia would not return back to her home. Because of this, Mary decides to get Olivia's brother, who we'll name Jake, to look for her sister, while she's been trying for almost 20 times the past 2 hours to call her phone. Worried, Mary makes up her mind to go look for Olivia as well. And when she reaches where Olivia told her she went off to, she sees a man in his mid-30s beside her daughter. The two of them freeze in shock, and Mary quickly confronts the man who he was, and what he was doing with Olivia. The man said he had only just met her, and then proceeds to leave the area, and gets on a bus nearby. Mary then demands Olivia to tell her what was going on, and instead of telling her what happened, she begins making things up, with her story not making any sense at all. This alarms Mary, who contacts the police, but they're unable to act as Olivia insists nothing has actually happened. After going back home, Olivia tells her mother that she feels rather unwell and returns to her room. A few days would pass, and while Olivia was outside, Mary decides to go to her room to look for anything that will clear the lingering suspicion that her daughter is hiding something from her. A suspicion sparked by a man she encountered with Olivia in the park. Once inside, she comes across something strange in Olivia's bed. She finds another mobile phone that isn't her daughter's, prompting her to go through it, and what she sees utterly horrifies her. It turns out there's a conversation between Olivia and the man she saw in the park, under the name Michael, asking Olivia,
"Do you regret Sunday?"
To which Olivia replies,
"No."
Aside from this, Mary sees tons of messages between the two, containing requests from Michael for further meetings, and as she goes through their chat logs, she finds a disturbing picture of the two kissing each other, and him telling Olivia to hide the phone from her mother. Mary is devastated at what she sees, and she knows that Michael is the one who had given Olivia this phone in order for them to communicate with each other in secret, and that they'd already met previously a number of times without her knowing. She immediately goes to the police, and hands over the device to serve as key evidence for the investigation, and from there, the detectives are able to identify his full name to be Michael Schablinger, a 36-year-old man from Germany who traveled all the way to Olivia's home country, England, just to meet with her. What comes off as a shock though is that Olivia had actually met Michael on Roblox, falsely claiming himself to be a 21-year-old and spending months manipulating her to enter a romantic relationship with him since May of 2023. They also retrieve other conversations about Michael, seeking a passport for Olivia, making his intentions clear of wanting her to leave the country with him. And with this much information now in hand, the police can now rightfully search for this man and bring him to justice. On June 23rd, a week after Michael's last meetup with Olivia in the park, he gets arrested by border force officers at Heathrow Airport as he tried to board a plane to Munich, Germany. And following this, they're able to seize his phone, and moments later find explicit images and videos of other unidentified small humans, as well as indecent pictures of Olivia herself. While reviewing all of this evidence, the prosecutor of this case, Oliver Haswell, discovers a lot of inappropriate material and messages that have been exchanged between the two, and also that Michael has coerced Olivia to commit depraved acts, recording her as she's doing it. Oliver also learns that on the day of Olivia's last interaction in person with Michael, she actually refused to tell the police what happened, even sending him a message when she got home, saying,
"Be lucky, I lied to the police."
But on January 9th, 2025, about 6 months after his arrest, Michael finally appears in court, where he admits to engaging in obscene activities with Olivia. And what makes this even worse is, he confesses to possessing over 800 indecent images and videos, not just of Olivia, but also of other small humans as well. And following this, he's charged with 3 offenses relating to Olivia, and another 3 involving unidentified people. The judge then imposes an extended 8.5-year sentence on Michael, made up of 4.5 years in custody and 4 years on license. He's also been banned from contacting or attempting to contact the victim directly or indirectly until further order, leaving him no chance of harming Olivia. But as terrifying as this is, this next person took things far beyond a relationship. On April 13th, 2025, a 10-year-old girl who we'll call Emma is reported missing from her home in Taft, California. Right away, her entire family goes into panic mode, and deputies are dispatched to several streets in the city. And as soon as they begin the investigation, they would receive information from Emma's friends that points to the possibility of her being kidnapped, prompting detectives to be called out immediately. But to understand how this happened, it all traces back a month earlier. In March of 2025, Emma was just playing Roblox when she meets someone named Matthew on the platform's game called Micah, which uses voice chats to talk to each other. And as they begin to socialize, they would start developing some sense of friendship. And soon after, they both would move their casual conversations to Discord. Days become weeks, and their connection develops even further. They go from talking about where they live to talking about meeting each other in person. And before long, this exact idea comes to fruition. At 1 a.m. in the morning on April 13th, Matthew has just arrived at Emma's residence from a 4-hour drive from his county in Sacramento, down to her place in Kern County, California. From here, he picks her up outside the house and leaves completely unnoticed by her family. And just hours later, Emma's family starts to notice that she's nowhere to be seen at the house. And once the realization that she's missing starts to sink in, they immediately call the authorities. At about 10 a.m., Kern County Sheriff's Office deploys deputies to the area. And with her family members saying that she was last seen the night before at their house, they begin their search for Emma. During the investigation, detectives receive more information from Emma's friends, and once they piece all their stories together, they discover that Emma hasn't simply gone missing, but was most likely kidnapped by someone she's been talking to online. The authorities retrieve Emma's chat logs on Roblox and Discord, and they identify the man she was talking to as Matthew Makatuno Navel, a 27-year-old, living more than 250 miles from the family's residence. The detectives then quickly notify the Elk Grove police for assistance, and shortly after, they're able to track Matthew's location in his car at a strip mall near his house with Emma. Straight away, the police make their way into the area, and at 3:35 p.m., officers finally arrive and swiftly arrest Matthew on the spot, booking him into Sacramento County Jail for kidnapping and engaging in unlawful indecent conduct with a young girl. Meanwhile, they find Emma inside his car, visibly distressed by what's happening, and after taking her into protective custody, it doesn't take long before her family arrives to make it to her side, relieved that they can see that Emma is somewhat safe once again. And although it's not confirmed whether she was physically harmed throughout the abduction, Matthew is hit with multiple charges. Several of them are relating to committing inappropriate acts with a young person, while others cover kidnapping and trying to expose a young girl to harmful material. And on the evening of April 21st, Matthew is summoned to speak with several news agencies at the Lerdo Justice Facility, where he's currently held after being transferred to Kern County on a $1.35 million bail. And when he asked about his statement on the matter, he says,
"I should have been more careful. Yeah, I should have been more questioning when it came to having that person involved."
Matthew then goes on to claim that Emma had told him she was 18, turning 19 at the time, and that she had allegedly asked him if he wanted to be more than friends.
They asked me if I wanted to be more than friends. I was a little bit hesitant because of age or whatnot, but I was pretty much encouraged.
The reporter then asked him about the time he discovered that she was actually a 10-year-old girl, and this is his response.
So when did you discover she was 10 years old?
Oh, I would say, because I'm sorry, it sickens me every time I hear that age. I think when I was questioned.
Demanding to know whether he's telling the truth, he's also questioned if he'd ever suspected her age, as she obviously appears rather young in the picture the sheriff's office used in a release when she was reported missing.
The thing is, when we were talking through Roblox, she told me that everyone that she knows, she always tells her that she looks younger than her age. And then I tend to believe that because likewise for myself, people would tell me myself that I look younger for my age.
But despite that, he denies all the charges against him, but also mentions that he works with small humans on the autism spectrum and is studying to become a nurse. He currently remains in custody, and after pleading not guilty, details of his court hearing, originally scheduled for June, haven't been made public yet. It's late 2017. Arnold Costello, otherwise known with various usernames such as the Jeterman, Jaden Shetletsky, Jacob Shetletsky, and Dr. Rodfatnik, is on track to becoming one of the most successful game developers on the platform of all time. With his YouTube channel already having 10,000 subscribers, he's now months away from finishing a Sonic-inspired game, Sonic Simulator. However, on September 6th, Arnold, who's under the username of Alive Inside Mephiles and Dead Inside Mephiles, is seen talking to a 8-year-old who will name Sarah. And from this Discord conversation, he appears to be conversing with her in a rather unsettling way.
It's fine, I expect you to be a little slow on the upbringing, but soon I'll corrupt you beyond your wildest dreams, no matter. I thought you were going to keep this our little secret. Look what you did. Now my clothes are dirty. Well, I guess you're gonna have to take them off. No, that just killed my expansion. I'm you PDF, bastard man. You know what they say, the younger the better.
Although it's unclear how they first met, these are just a few of the many messages he sends to Sarah.
You know my rules, little human. Looks like I'm gonna have to punish you. Calm down or else I won't take advantage of you. Behave and we can continue to play.
And it unfortunately doesn't end here. Over the span of 2 months, their conversations would gradually become even worse.
Face reveal. You had me there for a second. RIP my excitement. What's wrong, sweet turns? Be careful on where it goes. Sure thing, I'll make sure to miss any vital areas, hehe.
As the messages become more disturbing each time, Arnold begins making even more coercive suggestions.
End me, please. No, I'll hurt you violently instead. Don't worry about it, I'll just drive down there. The basement? No, to your home. Just jump out the window and I'll take you somewhere nice. What place? It's your choice, either my home or some motel. You're the reason I'm gonna end up behind bars. You won't end up in bars if nobody finds out. Just keep me at your house. Nobody will find me there. Oh yeah, you'll love the basement.
By this point, it's increasingly clear that Arnold no longer even tries to hide his twisted plans.
End me, LMAO. Why end you if I can hurt you instead? Besides, like I said before, you're more fun screaming. It wasn't a physical violation. You just call it that because you like fantasizing about being a no, which to be honest is kinda hot.
Given how he repeatedly attempts to normalize this with a small human who doesn't know any better, he even goes as far as suggesting meeting her in person, just so he can, in his words, hurt her. Yet Sarah isn't his only victim. Another call who we'll call Layla, who just turned years old in 2017, is a staff member at Arnold's Roblox Sonic game. During her time being one of the people managing the game though, Arnold actually likes to refer to her as his play toy, to fulfill his inappropriate desires. Every time she's in their Discord server, Arnold always takes his time in spamming her with hearts and mentioning her, and whenever she's asking him what work he wants her to do for the game, he would just constantly respond in a very disturbing way. In one instance, for example, he'll tell her to be his personal under-the-desk motivator. On one occasion, she even cries about how she doesn't want to be treated this way, stating that she just wants to work on modeling Sonic characters for their game. But despite this, Arnold would keep being uncomfortably inappropriate towards her, even though she clearly wasn't interested in anything other than doing her role as a staff member. And just when it seems like it couldn't get any worse, a 15-year-old girl we'll refer to as Mia, who's actually a close friend of Sarah, has also been getting messages from Arnold. On December 18, 2017, a conversation starts off with him saying,
"Baby, show me what you look like." No, but why? I can be trusted, mommy. Why? Because I want to see what you look like. I don't want to hurt you. I just want to see how good mama looks.
Thinking of a way for him to leave her alone, she decides to send him a picture of her hair. But instead of stop insisting that she sends a picture of herself, this is what he responds with.
I'm not gonna bully you or anything, mama. Please trust me. I won't share it to anyone. I just want to see you.
And when she still refuses, he replies,
"Why not? What's the problem with you showing me? Do you not trust me, or is it some sort of insecurity?"
And after begging her over and over again for a picture, it appears like she stands her ground and ignores his further messages. But on January 2nd, 2018, he would suddenly send her an unsettling message again.
"You don't actually look that bad. You look okay." "What? You look cute. I haven't shown you any pictures, so no. Maybe not you, but someone else did."
Mia then asks him who actually leaked the picture of her, but even though she's visibly concerned about her privacy being exposed, Arnold decides to degrade her even more before ending their conversation. And yet, instead of facing backlash and the consequences of what he's done, these conversations would only get buried throughout the following months, hidden from everyone else to witness. 7 entire months would pass, and in August of 2018, Sonic Simulator is finally released on Roblox. And from here, Arnold's career changes dramatically, as over the course of just a couple of years, he becomes one of Roblox's highest paid developers at the time, with his game at a staggering amount of around 90 million visits. But instead of making good use of his acquired fame and popularity, he instead takes advantage of this to fuel his twisted behavior. As it turns out, ever since his early days in 2017, he's been exhibiting horrifying actions on his server. And whenever anything controversial would be brought up against him, he would somehow convince these people that he's not actually doing anything that's outright wrong. For example, in one conversation, he's seen showing an image of him and his friends on Roblox dancing, while another user character is suffocating from a tree. And he would then go on to say,
"I like how I'm building the World War II German flag, and Vanguard and Trevor are holding Confederate flags, LMAO. And you see Charles hanging like a victim of racial violence."
With another chat log of him saying racist remarks.
"I call anyone an N-word, regardless of their skin tone. It's not like you're specifically calling a black person an N-word to insult them."
However, the racism wasn't the only horrible thing happening on the server. One of the staff members of his game, who goes by the username Panic, is even seen defending Arnold's attraction to young people. When Arnold's disturbing interactions with Sarah were exposed on their Discord server, their conversation begins with him and an unknown user shifting the blame to Sarah for Arnold's actions.
"I honestly think it's a guilt trip to get people to side with her and feel bad with her. That pisses me off. While I feel bad for her, she's also accountable for her actions. She can't play it off as I was young and immature. Doc should have stopped a long time ago when she asked him to. He's a predator. Being passive aggressive. Can't call him a PDF cause he ain't done nothing of the sort that's known as of now. There's nothing wrong with being passive aggressive. It's irritating, but it's not like morally wrong or anything."
But when another user named Saju presses Arnold's actions as unmistakably wrong, Panic would go on to justify Arnold's behavior even more.
"I can't blame her, yet she made several attempts to expose him or whatever using the exact same reasons. Imagine being years old and getting taken advantage of by a man in his 20s. Imagine having to bring it up several times, and every time you say you just wanted to bring light to it. The situation is over and dealt with, and you keep bringing it up, because who knows why. You would want to forget about something like that, wouldn't you?"
Arnold would even allow a well-known Sonic YouTube content creator named Sonic Destiny, otherwise known as Crazy Sonic Fan 110, who's just been recently outed as a PDF, to be in his Discord server. While he's already aware of this, and how he could endanger small humans on his server by keeping Crazy Sonic in there, he would still not do anything about it. But when his other staff members would actually take notice and kick Crazy Sonic out of the server, not only would he tell them off, but would even invite him back, as he says that this person is making him a ton of money. But all of this would fall apart due to one single person. On September 14, 2020, a Twitter user named Anonymity calls out Arnold for his many heinous deeds.
"I'm here to expose a fairly popular Sonic game developer on Roblox for having an attraction to young humans, being racist and homophobic."
In the document provided, all of Arnold's conversation logs with his own victims, as well as his disturbing behavior, is shown in detail. And what's even more surprising is that it's been recently updated to include a statement from Sarah, the alias of Arnold's first victim. It starts off with her noticeably expressing her anger towards him and his vile behavior, saying,
"Took advantage of my attachment to him, guilted and degraded me for not wanting to go along with his jokes, and turns on me and tells me I'm not special anymore, and I don't mean anything to him. When I was took advantage of my attachment to him and would start things with me just to beg for his forgiveness. And when I lost interest, he did that even more, banned and punished me for stupid reasons. And when I didn't give him what he wanted, he stopped."
She then talks about how he took advantage of her emotions and devalued her feelings, constantly humiliating her to the point of making her seem like she was the one who's in the wrong. 2 days after this expose has been made public, Arnold would publish a response video about the allegations against him, and he would open the video by acknowledging the things he said were inappropriate, but then goes on to say that they were just jokes.
"It was pretty common knowledge that these jokes were being made in my community. Maybe not to the extent it actually occurred, but definitely known. So far as to the point where I was known as the old man with in his basement."
He also invites a couple of other people who are acquainted with him to get testimonials about how he's not attracted to young people.
Hey there, my name is Charlie. I'm currently and I work at SEO as a graphics lead.
This is Panic. I've been a part of SEO's community since 2018. I do animation and modeling work.
I want to start off by saying I've known Jaden for 5 years, and all the years I've known him for, he was very careful with what he said because he knows not to step over the fine line of joking around. I'm not excusing what he said, but it was never meant to be handled seriously.
And near the end, he even shifts the blame to Sarah, calling her someone who craves attention.
"First things first, Red, what I said to you earlier about my apology was completely sincere, and I hope you can someday let go of this hatred. However, I will call you out on this because you cannot be claiming to be an angel. Red has no problem admitting that she craves attention. her behavior before anything else really just kind of screams it.
With him continuously downplaying his actions throughout the video and how his community is actually siding with him, it looks like he's going to completely get away with it. Until, on September 20th, 4 days after Arnold's response video, a Roblox YouTuber known for exposing predators on the platform, we already mentioned, Rubensim, steps in and brings the situation to a Roblox staff member. He sends them the clip where Arnold admits the screenshots are real and breaks down Arnold's 30-minute response video into a 7-minute video, and also provides the email address of Sarah's mother.
So I spoke up. I made a few tweets denouncing him that caught the attention of a Roblox staff member on the developer relations team. I explained the situation to him. I gave him the email address of Sarah's mom, and I also showed him the video of Arnold admitting that the screenshots were real. Since the video is over half an hour long, I created my own video breaking it down in less than 7 minutes.
And surprisingly, Arnold's main Roblox account would get deleted shortly after Ruben's conversation with the staff member. To Ruben's frustration, however, it turns out the account that has been banned isn't Arnold's main source of income, and because of the attention he's actually received, his revenue allegedly tripled right after getting exposed. And by the end of the month, with Arnold's game still on the platform, he's able to receive all the payments from Roblox, while Sarah's mom still hasn't been made aware of the whole situation. As a result, Ruben himself would then share his frustration with the staff member, addressing that Roblox should really put an effort to protect their users from these predators. And surprisingly, Roblox would actually terminate the holder account for Arnold's development group. But just like before, it would appear like Arnold has seen this coming, because just a few days earlier, he transferred the ownership of the group to one of his friends, ensuring that the funds from the game would still be accessible. 2 weeks later, he tweets,
"Thanks for driving more money to my game, man. Jeez, you guys are actually stupid by giving me all this publicity."
Even with all of this, Roblox still couldn't take down his game for rightful reasons. And on November 9th, Ruben would push the issue even further by contacting the local police to file a report on Arnold.
So on November 9th, I called my local police to file a report on him. I spoke with a detective who really seemed like he wanted to help, but since I didn't know anything about Arnold's real identity, there wasn't much they could do.
Roblox, on the other hand, has this information because of Arnold being approved for the platform's developer exchange, but they still wouldn't take any action on handing over Arnold's information to the authorities, and Ruben's efforts to bring attention to the police would end up going nowhere. Following this, Arnold would go on to lay low for the time being, and just when the public attention was slowly starting to fade away from him, it would be completely revived. On December 13th, 2021, a YouTube channel called People Make Games would release a video talking about the darker side of Roblox, which shockingly includes an interview with none other than Sarah herself.
When I had first met him, he had mentioned his Roblox fan game, and I was like, hey, I like Roblox too. He was making a Roblox Sonic fan game, two things that had caught my interest at the time. So I asked him about it. Next thing I know, I get like 5 pings, and he sends me a bunch of gifs of it. He's sending me progress of it already. He was the one who started taking the inappropriate jokes into DMs first. He kept encouraging it, saying that it was okay to make these jokes. It's not illegal, it's not breaking any laws, even though it was literally, it got to ERP level at one point. I did actually self after the response video came out. I mean, I thought my reputation was destroyed now, you know?
After admitting that watching Arnold's response video has made her hurt herself, Roblox will receive a ton of backlash on how they dealt with the situation. And thankfully, with how Ruben and many other content creators brought the entire issue to light, a lot of other people would start to willingly cooperate on bringing the matter to justice as well. One of which was Naru, a 22-year-old Japanese gamer who would decide to take on a different approach, writing to the vice president for product development at the company who owns the trademarks related to Sonic the Hedgehog, Sega Sammy Holdings Incorporated. And she would also go on to tweet at its press relations team, saying that their iconic hedgehog was being mishandled by a PDF on Roblox. And this would actually move the needle, because Sega would file a copyright infringement notice with Roblox. And so at the end of 2021, Arnold's game Sonic Simulator would finally be shut down, with all its revenue being gone as well. And an entire year later, a group of anonymous investigators would manage to dig up what they believed to be Arnold's real identity, narrowing it down to his name, city, and even his old address. And Ruben again would take this to the local police. But because so much of this information was actually outdated, and with Arnold's long history of using fake details, the detectives couldn't confirm a positive ID, and there wouldn't be a way to officially tie evidence back to him. He managed to get away once again. However, just a few months later, everything would change. In May of 2022, a missing person report is filed in the state of Indiana. A 10-year-old girl who we'll name Crystal has disappeared, along with her favorite electronics, charger cables, as well as some clothing and a blanket. Her family and friends are flooding her with calls and messages, asking where she is, but it's met with no response. And when they come across her Instagram, they notice a recently posted photo of her from the back seat of what appears to be a car, with the caption,
Goodbye, Indiana.
Stacy Hinshaw, a detective who specializes in crimes involving obscene acts, quickly realizes that this isn't a typical situation where Crystal has only run away. Upon asking her family, she discovers that Crystal actually doesn't have any money to travel, yet she's nowhere to be seen in the whole entire state, which leads to the possibility that someone has taken her away. After getting approval from the judge to access Crystal's phone, Stacy discovers that the last tower her cell has pinged was in Pittsburgh, which is around 350 miles away from Indiana, and she then asks Crystal once again if she's been talking to anyone online recently, to which her sister, who we'll call Jamie, says that a man named Jacob Shatletsky, who's apparently a popular game developer on Roblox, has been chatting with her sister. Jamie then adds that Crystal actually met Jacob on the platform this January, and he even bought one of Crystal's drawings that she, as an artist, has posted on Instagram. Before accepting the payment, Crystal called her mother to make sure it was alright, and once she gave her approval, Jacob sent $45 through Cash App, and shortly after that, Amazon packages would suddenly start showing up on their doorstep, containing a teddy bear, a tablet drawing stand, and a drawing glove, as well as food from fast food restaurants. Upon getting this information, Stacy is then able to trace the gifts to the Amazon account of a second man named Nelson Betanker with an address in Peterson, New Jersey. Immediately after, she calls Jacob's phone number that she received from Crystal's mother, and after answering the phone, Jacob admits that he's the one behind the gifts, but claims that he doesn't know where she is. Throughout the call, however, he takes a suspiciously long time to provide even the most basic information, such as his address and even date of birth. And when Stacy asks Jacob why he sent the Amazon gifts from a different account, he responds by saying that Nelson is his business associate. Days later, Instagram's parent company, Meta Platforms Incorporated, returns the result of a court-ordered search warrant for Crystal's messaging history in the platform, and surprisingly, another person pops up by the username of Dr. Rofatnik. The chat logs show her sending him hundreds of messages, and Doctor even says at one point that he's in love with her, and tells her that physical intimacy is a beautiful thing, and when she says that she might be too young for that kind of stuff, he replies with,
"You're not."
And on April 25th, he writes another message saying,
"I want to see you badly. The only way this is going to work is if you listen to me."
And now that there's enough evidence in hand, Stacy calls the FBI and is put in touch with Len Rothermich, who's a special agent on the Production Rapid Response Team in the state, and soon enough, Len would discover that the girl has logged into her Instagram account from a new IP address, prompting him to call the service provider's emergency office, saying that a teenager's life is at risk and he needs the account holder's location as soon as possible. And as soon as he receives the phone records, he discovers that Crystal's recent login location matches the address linked to the Amazon account that has been sending packages to her home. And so finally, in the early evening of May 11th, 8 days after Crystal left her home, 6 unmarked cars carrying police officers and FBI agents arrive in a quiet residential street in Patterson. Within minutes, they see Crystal turning around a corner with a man, and officers immediately approach the pair, separating them from each other. And minutes later, Crystal is taken to a hospital, while the man is being put into handcuffs. After searching his belongings, they ask who he is, and he replies saying that his name is Arnold Castillo. Arnold, who's now been identified as the 22-year-old man, is taken to an FBI office where he agrees to an interview without a lawyer. In it, he admits using the aliases Jacob Chatletsky and Jaden Chatletsky, as well as Dr. Rofatnik, in order to hide his identity. Arnold then says he used the Amazon account of an uncle in Florida to send gifts to Crystal, and that he's even had a deal with an Uber driver, paying them $1,000 to bring her from Indiana to his place in New Jersey, and Arnold would be arrested.
22-year-old Arnold Castillo of New Jersey is facing federal charges. The reason we're covering this story, he was in court today for allegedly ordering an Uber to pick up a girl here in central Indiana and taking her to his home. Court documents say Castillo used social media to communicate with this girl and her with gifts. Last May, investigators found that girl at his home in New Jersey. If convicted, Castillo faces up to life in prison.
And a few weeks later, showing him flirting with Crystal under the username Last Outlaws, and that their in-game avatars appear to be holding hands, or having matching t-shirts that read boyfriend and girlfriend. In the 4 months leading up to his arrest, Len also learns that Arnold and Crystal have been actually messaging each other on Roblox about her intention to run away from their home. And following this, the federal prosecutor Tiffany Preston would detail what investigators believe what happened during the 8 days that Crystal was missing. Shortly after being dropped off in New Jersey by the driver, Castillo would take her to a cramped room he rented in a house next to his garage apartment, where he would do incredibly disturbing things to her. She would also discover that Crystal is entirely dependent on Castillo for food and money, and that there were no blankets or furniture inside the room, except for only a dirty twin mattress on the floor. And every time Crystal would tell Arnold that she feels lonely, he would simply buy her a plush doll and just buy hair dye just to change her appearance. Finally, in the court hearing on August 30th, 2023, the judge would sentence Arnold to 15 years in prison. But this next case, however, is someone who took his depraved obsessions to the most extreme. It's mid-2023, and 18-year-old girl from Wayne Township, New Jersey, who we'll just refer to as Riley, is just having fun playing Roblox. While she's going across various games on the platform, she's with a boy named Darius, who she first met early on the game Dead by Daylight. And from there, they begin to spend time playing together on the platform, till they eventually start hanging out every day. And as time went by, Riley and Darius started talking on various social media platforms, including Discord, Snapchat, and even TikTok. But soon, their conversations would lead to a horrifying set of consequences. At 5:30 in the morning of September 10th, 2023, Riley's brother, who we'll call Jake, has just woken up, assuming it's a school day. He looks around their hotel residence and finds his sister is already gone. Considering the possibility that she went off early to school, he doesn't think much of it, until he realizes that it's Sunday. Wondering where his sister went off to, he calls their mother, who we'll name Jade, on the phone, and this prompts Jade to quickly come home. And after an hour of searching for Riley, Jade contacts the Wayne Township Police Department, and at approximately 6:45 a.m. on September 10th, 2023, officers respond to the area of the US Route 46, an old turnpike road in Wayne, New Jersey, regarding the missing 18-year-old. From here, the authorities begin asking Jade, who her daughter has been recently talking to, and she suddenly remembers someone Riley has been messaging on Facebook all the time. She then provides the investigators with the Facebook name, Darius Styles. A couple of minutes pass, and after confirming who the account belongs to, they tell her that Riley has been interacting online with a 27-year-old man named Darius Matulowicz, leaving her in utter shock. The police then immediately take various tracking measures to know where Darius currently is, and soon after, they're able to locate both his phone number and residence in Delaware. They proceed to contact him by phone, hoping to get answers for Riley's whereabouts. What's even more surprising though is that he not only answers the call, but after more than half an hour of officers questioning him, he admits to picking up Riley from the hotel where she and her family are staying, claiming he thought she was years old and not, which doesn't really make it any better. And just 4 hours after Riley's disappearance, the Newcastle County Police Department, assisting WTPD with this case, arrests Darius at his home, 135 miles from Riley's residence, and safely rescues her, bringing her back home to her family. As investigators dig further, they learn more about what led to Riley leaving that morning. On September 9th, she told Darius that her mother was planning to send her to Florida to live with her relatives, which prompted him to worry about losing access to her. The next day, he offered to let her stay with him and followed through, bringing her to his mother's house. In questioning, Darius would then admit to having communicated with Riley through the social platforms mentioned earlier. He described traveling to New Jersey to meet her, going on walks near her home, and eventually picking her up, along with her cat, from the Wayne Hotel, where her family was living. His defense attorney, going by the name of Elko, claims that Darius was just trying to help the who allegedly told him she was planning to run away.
My client said that this is a bad idea, you should not be running away, and she begged my client to come pick her up to get out of an unhealthy and unstable living situation. He asked her repeatedly if she wanted to go back, if her mother would be concerned.
The prosecutor, however, notes that an 18-year-old is too young to give consent to leave her family with a 27-year-old man, and they questioned Darius whether he really believed that he was helping her or not. The fact that he hadn't gone to the police or informed them when they called him in the morning also raised clear suspicions on his intentions with Riley, yet it soon became unsettlingly clear what Darius' real intentions had really been. A forensic examination of Darius' cell phone and social media uncovered startling evidence, including communication threads in which he pressured Riley into performing indecent acts, and in turn produced very exploitative materials of her. Investigators also recovered messages where Darius described secretly watching and following Riley near her home, and they discovered that he'd been using an iPhone app to record conversations, videos, and images of her performing inappropriate acts, solicited through Snapchat. Apart from that, it was also revealed that Darius stored hundreds of files of Riley within the hidden folder of his Photos app, which was only accessible through Face ID. And after that, Darius would also be found out to be regularly telling Riley that he loved her and guilt-tripped her. He also gave her gifts, including Roblox gift cards, and suggested she could pay him back with other disturbing requests. And so Darius would be hit with charges of coercion and enticement of a young person and production of disturbing materials involving the very young. And by July 2nd, 2025, he would be sentenced to a period of 20 years in prison. What comes next, however, is someone who showed no remorse in carrying out some of the most despicable acts imaginable. It's February 18th, 2022. A 15-year-old girl who we'll refer to as Amy is just playing her favorite game, Roblox, on her iPad, hoping to find some friends to play with. But as she's going through various different games on the platform, she happens to come across a user named Mr. Malicious XYZ. And as they begin talking to each other, Amy becomes fascinated by him, as he has a friendly personality and all around seems like a nice guy. Before leaving the game, she makes sure to add him as a friend, with the intention of wanting to play with him from now on. And from there on out, they begin to chat for a span of 2 days. And during this period, Malicious finds out that Amy is just Because of this, he suddenly becomes interested in meeting her in real life and reveals that he's actually 33. Stunned, Amy realizes that the person she's been talking to this whole time is almost 3 times her age. Yet seeing how his demeanor seems to be of no harm, she eventually bears no mind in having him as a friend. Malicious then tries to meet up with her in person, telling her that they're going to hang out like real friends. And not knowing better at the time, Amy thinks to herself that it would be fun to spend time with him outside their online conversations. And after coming to a decision, she agrees. However, unlike Amy, who has innocent yet exciting ideas on the things she wants to do with him once they meet, Malicious has other plans. On February 20th, Malicious, who's originally from Riverdale, a town in Georgia, drives for as long as 13 hours to Topeka, a town in Kansas, where Amy lives. Once they meet up, Amy sees that Malicious is dressed nicely with the smell of cologne, and he greets her with a warm personality. Malicious then continues this type of behavior towards her throughout the day, bringing Amy to eat nice food and treating her like a princess almost. After having an enjoyable time touring the town, he then tells Amy that it's finally time to rest, and that she should return home. But much to her shock, Malicious is not referring to her going back to her home, but to her going to his home in Riverdale with him. And Amy, somehow having trust in him, figures that they're just going to his place to play Roblox together and spend the night, and that there won't be any problems, as she'd already told her mother that she's going to hang out with a friend. And as soon as she agrees, Malicious invites her to his car, and after a few minutes, Amy is now miles away from her home with a grown man who she thinks of as a friend. Once they arrive at the home, Amy bumps into Malicious' roommate, who we'll call Michael, who's confused seeing a little girl with a 33-year-old man who he shares the house with. He asks him who she is, and Malicious replies with that Amy is actually his stepdaughter, with Amy showing no signs of denial. Michael shrugs it off, and the two of them make their way into Malicious' room, and after making it there, Amy gets visibly stunned when Malicious suddenly locks the door shut and starts to get worried when he blinds the windows as well. Once doing so, Malicious takes her phone away, and with Amy's only way of contacting her parents now gone, he traps her in his own room, leaving her no chance to escape from the horrifying and disturbing actions that he is about to do with her. 3 days later, Amy went from an innocent young person into someone who experienced hell. As it turned out, Malicious would do disturbing things to her, making her a prisoner he'd repeatedly hurt in his own room. With the thoughts of this being her new fate and that she could never go back to her family ever again, Amy thankfully meets someone who would end up changing the entire situation. On February 24th, as Malicious went off to work, Michael stumbled upon his room, and as soon as Amy saw him, she quickly ran to him and alerted him as to what happened. Furious, Michael confronted Malicious as soon as he returned home, with them getting into a heated argument. But fortunately, Malicious gave up and let go of Amy, dropping her off at a Dollar General store with all of her things the same day. Without wasting any time, Amy would quickly scramble through her bag and find her phone, and after starting it up, it luckily had some battery left, and so she messaged her mother, who surprisingly also had a Roblox account. And upon hearing what happened, her mother instantly dialed the authorities, who were then able to locate Amy, picking her up and returning her to her hometown. With Amy now reunited with her family, the police would begin to investigate Malicious, discovering that his real name was Howard Leslie Graham, and started tracking him. And on the 1st of March, Howard would finally be arrested at his workplace, an IHOP restaurant. He would be held on 7 felony charges, including physically violating a small human, engaging in unlawful relations with someone under the legal age, and much more. And although no public records show what happened after his arrest, what clears that he was taken into jail on multiple offenses. And finally, I'm gonna cover some crimes that happen in the Undertale community. Avimides was a popular fan artist from Taiwan who started her digital art career way back in 2009 and primarily made short comics in the Team Fortress 2 or TF2 art style, which was very popular at the time, on her DeviantArt page. And Avimides then began streaming in the mid-2010s, and by 2011 she'd become well known in the digital fan art community and started posting her arts on other popular platforms like Tumblr, Plurk, and Twitter. She also ran an account on a furry-centric art community called Fur Affinity, where she posted furry comics and art, an obvious indicator that she was an active member of the furry subculture. However, in 2015, Avimides decided to join a new fandom, but little did she know that it was going to nearly cost her life. Undertale, as you may know, is a roleplay video game that completely took over the internet after its release in 2015. The goal of the game is basically to help a lost boy named Frisk find his way home from the underworld, with multiple endings which depend on how the player chooses to play the game. Avimides was also one of the many people that fell in love with Undertale, and for that reason she decided to do what she did best, which was to make digital art for the game. At first, many fans really liked Avimides' art, but all of that love quickly transformed into deep hatred when she revealed that she was a Franz supporter. Franz being one of the most controversial character ships in the Undertale community. And in case you don't know, a ship is when fans of a movie, video game, or novel decide to pair two characters from their fandom into a romantic relationship. The friendship in question is between Frisk, the main character, and Sans, the skeleton. And the reason a lot of people strongly oppose this ship is majorly because of the age difference. In the game, Frisk is canonically a younger person, while Sans on the other hand is an adult in his late 20s. Now many people find this dynamic weird, since it essentially portrays Sans as a PDF file. So when Avimidis posted this art on the friendship on Tumblr in 2017, she got a lot of hate for it. However, it seemed like one fan felt the online attacks that Avimidis was facing weren't enough, and decided to let her know how they felt in person. In early May of 2017, a big anime convention was held in Taiwan, and since Avimidis was considered a very influential member of the Undertale community, not only in Taiwan but on the global internet fandom as well, she decided to attend this convention. During the convention, a fan actually recognized Avimidis in the crowd and immediately went to meet her. After they talked about her fan art and took a couple of pictures, the fan then handed Avimidis a box of homemade cookies as a gift. And Avimidis of course took them, thinking it was only a simple show of appreciation. But when she decided to finally enjoy these cookies, she was horrified to find out that it was quite the opposite. Upon getting home, Avimidis decided to take a couple of bites from the box of cookies, but it wasn't long into her sweet treat that something sharp and pointy pierced her tongue, and when she spat out what was in her mouth, what she saw absolutely shocked her. Inside the cookie was a huge needle baked inside. And so not long after the convention, Avimidis went on her Plurk account and made this post.
Warning, these photos contain a lot of blood. I'm very sorry that I haven't had a chance to say my thanks for the convention, and I am venting, but I received a needle in my dessert gift from the convention. Thank you, I have one more piercing now. I'm not trying to ask for comfort. I am only trying to tell everyone how serious this matter is, so do not comfort me. This matter is unable to be investigated and hopeless to be investigated. This matter has made me lost trust towards something, but from today onward, I will not be accepting any more homemade food by others. And more follow-up and notice will be posted, if there's any. Thank you for your attention.
The needle injured Avimidis' tongue and mouth, but luckily she didn't actually swallow it. If she'd actually swallowed it, the needle could have torn through her esophagus or punctured her stomach. Someone had tried to make her suffer, or worse, lose her life. Avimidis also posted this photo, which shows the chewed out cookie that she spat out, bleeding from her mouth wounds and a long needle. A blog post also revealed that Avimidis had gone to the police and filed a report, but no official arrest was ever made. And since she had always been a public supporter of the France ship, a lot of fans believed that the attack was meant to punish her for promoting the disturbing ship, and some of them were even in support of the attack. While this theory was generally accepted, it isn't completely confirmed. And since there were no arrests made or hospital records following the incident, many of her fans actually believed that she may have faked the entire incident for attention and views. However, judging from how real the photo looked, it is unlikely that this was the case. But that was far from the only theory internet users came up with. The story would take a whole different turn 4 years after the incident, when Avimidis suddenly restricted her social media accounts and wrote on her Twitter bio,
"Learn from the past, moving on. I decided to reboot my social media accounts, only for myself some space to breathe. I apologize for everything I've done."
Although Avimidis didn't explicitly mention what she was apologizing for, a couple of people matched it with the number of unverified crimes that she'd been linked with in the past.
No one knows the actual true reason for this, but a person at an Undertale convention had received cookies from a fan that was actually filled with needles. These were the following things they had done beforehand: being accused of taking advantage of owing people's money, murdering pet birds.
A Twitter user also wrote,
"There's like literally zero evidence it was because of friends and the artist in question." Avimidis was also accused of pretty effed up stuff, violations, animal harm, etc.
And with all these new claims, it began to look like Avimidis had quite a number of enemies before the cookie attack. But since everything basically still remains unconfirmed and no official arrests were ever made, it's pretty hard to say what exactly caused this murder attempt. But despite how disturbing this case was, the next case on our list shows how far the community can go just because they didn't like the way someone played Undertale. Markiplier is one of the most famous creators on YouTube and is well known for being multi-talented in acting, filmmaking, gaming, and overall entertainment. He currently has over 38 million subscribers on his account and was even listed by Forbes as the 3rd highest paid content creator on YouTube in 2022. However, in 2015, Markiplier was almost completely cancelled just because of how he chose to play Undertale. After the release of the game in September of 2015, a lot of YouTubers including PewDiePie, Jacksepticeye, etc. decided to make gameplay videos of the game, as a result of the positive reviews that flooded the internet. And so in November, Markiplier released a walkthrough of Undertale to add to his Let's Play series on YouTube, where he had already played over 20 different games on stream. However, instead of the usual positive response to his videos, Mark's comment section was blowing up with insults and even death threats just because apparently he wasn't playing the game the right way. And it wasn't just the first video that got this kind of reaction. The next time he dropped another Undertale gameplay video, fans of the game came at him again. And when the negative comments didn't stop after the second episode, he gave up on making the third one completely. You have to know the Undertale plot is divided into 2 main endings, which come from either choosing the pacifist route or the genocide route. The pacifist route basically involves the player not killing any monsters in the game and befriending 3 of the secondary main characters, Papyrus, Undyne, and Alphys. while the genocide route on the other hand involves killing every monster, including mini, mid and main bosses in every location in the game. The third ending is the neutral one, which is basically the combination of both. And while these endings just seem like two simple different plot lines, a lot of Undertale fans don't joke with the routes, and have formed very toxic fandoms within the community that harass, dogs and even send death threats to people who choose routes different from theirs. The genocide route fans believe that it is very pointless to play the game without killing monsters, because it leaves the protagonist at level 1 and doesn't give him any XP. And for the pro-pacifists, their biggest argument is that taking the genocide route involves killing characters that are minors. Now Markiplier chose to play through the genocide route, and this was the reason behind the backlash from pro-pacifists. At the same time, a lot of comments criticized the voice he decided to use for the video game characters, especially Sans and Toriel.
You're making Sans sound like an idiot. OMFG Mark, when you first met Sans, your voice for him made him sound like a...
Now many of these comments were so vile that YouTube had to take them down, and some even went as far as asking Markiplier to end his own life. What made the death threats even more heartbreaking for Markiplier was that only 3 months before the walkthrough stream, Markiplier actually lost one of his close friends and collaborator, Daniel Lee Kyrie, after he unalived himself. Now Markiplier didn't actually say anything about the entire situation until February of 2016, during his Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance charity livestream.
Undertale, I'm not gonna play it. There's no short way around it. There's no easy way to say that. I'm not gonna play it. The community that rallied around it for different reasons than the reasons that I wanted to play it. So then it became a big obstacle to me in my mind that I wanted to play it in a different way than people were expecting. And then it became too much of a long thing, and then it's way out of time now, and I just don't feel like playing it.
The backlash would eventually die down after Mark successfully distanced himself from the game. However, later in October 2016, Mark made a surprising return to Undertale, when he and some of his friends streamed their playthrough for YouTube Primetime. And this was when he finally explained why he quit in 2015, saying,
"Everyone was disappointed in the way I was playing it, and ordinarily I would just be like, you know, I'm doing it my way, I'm gonna do this. But unfortunately it was so persuasive that it made the entire experience not fun for me. It was literally just a moment where I was like, I'm not having fun making these videos, because I know no matter what I do, everyone will think I'm wrong."
Now Markiplier's case wasn't the only time Undertale fans hated on YouTubers for playing the game wrongly. In January of 2016, while YouTuber Fraser Argar, also known as Far From Subtle, was streaming an Undertale walkthrough on his channel, he killed some of the monsters that attacked his characters, and because of this wasn't allowed to go through a door in the game that was strictly meant for the pacifist route. Now a lot of viewers in the stream chat immediately made it a big deal, with one commenting,
"Wow, they really are punishing you for your choices."
And this made him really frustrated, and so he replied,
"Everyone just acts like it's common knowledge when we've been playing it from the beginning, as though 1 million internet people didn't say, hey, can you play Undertale, make sure not to kill anything, K thanks bye. I don't play games like that."
What comes next, however, is even more unsettling since it involves an Undertale mod developer who used his privilege to commit pure evil. When Undertale was released in 2015, nobody expected it to blow up as fast as it did. It was very rare for an indie game to perform that well, and even Toby Fox, the creator of the game, was so surprised by its success that he made a post on his official blog.
Though it was released almost a year ago, I have the same opinion of it. It's about an 8 out of 10 niche RPG game. Surprisingly, there are many people who like this type of game. Though I did work hard, there's definitely a lot of luck involved in having a game become this popular.
This fast and exponential growth was the first of that era, and it definitely gave room for a huge fanbase that created fan art, alternate game theories, universes, and new gameplay mods from developers within the community. A game mod is sort of a fan-made reconstruction of a video game that basically makes changes usually requested by other members of the community. And one of the most popular Undertale mods was the Bits and Pieces mod, not only for the new improvements, but for the very controversial story behind its creator. The first version of the Bits and Pieces mod was announced in August of 2020 by the team B&P, a group of relatively famous developers, artists, and musicians in the Undertale community. The creator and main director of the project was a designer and musician called Blaze Myers. He was the lead developer on the team and had also collaborated with musicians on popular soundtracks in the Undertale community, including the very popular Spamton CD track and the soundtrack of the second chapter of Deltarune, a spin-off Undertale made by the original creator Toby Fox. The Bits and Pieces mod introduced overhauled graphics, new characters, fight scenes and locations, and even imported features from Deltarune. Team B&P also consistently left news updates on their Game Jolt page and put out 25 mod versions by 2022, before releasing the main version in January of 2023, with 3 versions following in early November. However, on the 13th of November, Team B&P posted an update on their page titled "What's Next?" and it completely shocked everyone.
We'd like to start this announcement by sincerely thanking everyone for their support you've given us in the wake of the incident. You're the best. The Undertale Bits and Pieces mod, as you may know it, will no longer continue development. We ask that nobody attempts to continue this project as we feel it is best left as is. We've decided to archive this page, as well as the current Discord server, and we'll be releasing what we had of the anticipated Susie update, in the broken buggy state it was left at. However, we're happy to confirm that this is not the end. Our team has been steadily moving towards working on a new mod project, one that's completely free from our previous lead influence. In fact, this project has been in the works behind the scenes long before the incident occurred. The new mod is none other than Undertale Project Harmony by Murky Spices, which still aims to redesign the visuals of Undertale and add some extra content, only this time taking a more faithful approach. More updates coming soon. A new Discord server and Game Jolt page will also be popping up soon. Once again, thank you for standing by us, and we can't wait to explore what the future holds.
The Undertale community was completely confused and at the same time devastated, especially with the statement indicating that their new mod project was going to be free from the previous lead influence, which meant that the team had a problem from the top. And when fans took note of it, a lot of theories started coming in about Blaze being a toxic leader and that he'd been abusing his power within the team. But the next day, the real reason for the mod's cancellation came out, and it was far worse than a common situation of power imbalance. That day, a Reddit user made a post titled
Bits and Pieces mod creator arrested,
which included a link to Blaze's official mugshot and incarceration details. According to the Barron County inmate database, Blaze Myers was arrested for charges of possession of illegal underage content and soliciting for very immoral content from young people. Blaze Myers had been using his Instagram account to view illegal content of people not of age. However, on the 9th of August 2023, the Instagram administration reported through CyberTip that there had been an exchange of 3 illegal files between 2 accounts, one of which belonged to Blaze. The police then began an investigation, and 3 months later, they received a warrant to search Blaze Myers' account. And by the time the police went through his computer, what they uncovered was the darkest collection of media imaginable. He'd been having intimate conversations with a younger person, and had asked that person to make illicit videos of themselves. And so on November 13, the same day the BNP team announcement was made, Blaze was charged with 2 felonies, exploitation of a younger person and possession of explicit content involving a person not of age. In the Barron County circuit, he was held on a signature bond of $10,000. And on May 10, 2024, Blaze pleaded guilty to the charge of possessing explicit content involving a person not of age. And so after all the court proceedings, on July 9, 2024, almost 8 months later, Blaze was sentenced to 8 years in prison, with 3 years of confinement and 5 years of extended supervision, on the condition that he registered as an offender and never used the internet unsupervised again. In response to the entire controversy, the Team BNP official website was updated to remove Blaze from the credits on their work. And under the list of directors, the team added a note where Blaze's name is supposed to be, which read,
"We don't talk about the third one,"
completely erasing him from the Bits and Pieces projects. And according to a blog post from TV Topes, some old members of the Team BNP partnered to form a new dev group called Top Hat Interactive and worked together to create the Undertale Project Harmony mod that they had already announced in their statement. Then in January of 2025, Top Hat Interactive finally decided to completely distance themselves from Blaze Myers and everything he'd created. So they reached an agreement with the other Undertale mod collective called the Hopes and Dreams mod team and agreed to delete all traces from Bits and Pieces in their work. And while Blaze faced justice for his crimes, that wasn't the same in the next case, even though they went as far as almost forcing someone to end their stay on Earth. We've already talked about ships in the Undertale community and how toxic they can be, but there's one ship that's even more problematic than Frisk, the Fonsest ship. The Fonsest ship is between 2 underworld characters in the game, called Papyrus and Sans. In case you didn't notice, both of these characters are named after their popular computer text fonts, Papyrus and Sans Serif, and both of these characters are also brothers. In the game, Sans is depicted as the annoying older brother that lazes around and bugs Papyrus with bad skeleton jokes, but brags about Papyrus a lot whenever he's off screen, while Papyrus is calmer and pretty much the opposite of his brother. Sans and Papyrus are seen together at several points in the game, especially in the Snowden region, with Sans also making a couple of guest appearances on phone calls with Papyrus. Now, after the release of the game, many artists and fanfiction writers began creating romantic content involving the 2 brothers, especially on platforms like DeviantArt, Tumblr, and Wattpad. And a lot of fans loved the Fonsest ship because of the contrast in their personalities, and the fact that Papyrus and Sans are the main skeletons in the game. Also, as a result of the growth in the global acceptance of queer culture in the mid-2000s, same-gender ships like Fonsest were pretty popular. Now on the other hand, of course, the anti-Fonsest sub-fandom were strongly against the idea. This is because inappropriate relationships between siblings is not only morally wrong, but also a crime pretty much everywhere in the world. And so the pro-Fonsest versus anti-Fonsest groups slowly divided the Undertale fandom. And with time, what seemed like a simple disagreement quickly became something else entirely. Artists that drew Fonsest content were mass reported, which resulted in their accounts being suspended, and it escalated to a point where even artists that drew simple platonic scenes of the brothers were accused of being secret Fonsest shippers, and were also reported online. One user even went as far as creating a petition to stop Fonsest, which he addressed to Toby Fox, the Undertale community, and for some reason American rapper Macklemore. Now, during the peak of the Fonses beef, the term purity culture became a trend in the community, which is a Christian movement that preaches abstinency from intimacy. The anti-Fonses supporters also claimed that they were protecting children from the weird relationships of two brothers. But the pro-Fonses were also not backing down either, and decided to fight back so hard that they harassed an anti-Fonses supporter, so much so that he almost decided to end their time on Earth. In 2016, a Reddit post titled
"It seems an anti-Fonses blog unalived himself"
went viral, and it talked about a popular Tumblr blogger at the time under the username anti-Fonses, who was well known for posting content against the Fonses chip. The handler of the anti-Fonses blog had previously written about how they believed that chips like these were used to condition victims by their offenders into thinking what they did to them was okay. And then on July 4th, they made a post about receiving assault threats from pro-Fonses supporters online.
"Please stop sending me asks about harming me. Please, please, I'm begging you. Please stop."
And the same day, they released a long list of vile messages that they'd received from users online.
Things that people have actually said to me because I hate their skeleton ship. I've been brainwashed by the Tumblrians into being embarrassed about my past experience with inappropriate intimate conduct as a young person, and I should just drop the act and admit I enjoyed what happened. Graphic description of how someone wanted to kill me. I would have exploited whether the person responsible had access to adult content or not. So it's wrong of me to condemn the whole genre. 3 people hoping I get exploited again. Someone threatened to track me down and harm me. I'm an opinionated cow. I already lost the count of the unalive yourself asks I've gotten. Consensual familiar intimacy is beneficial for both parties. More that I don't want to think about right now.
Then they followed it up with another post saying,
"You want me gone so badly, then fine. I'll give you what you want."
Before completely going offline. Luckily, a friend of theirs managed to find them and talked them out of doing anything crazy to themselves. And the next day, another Tumblr blog posted an update on the whole situation.
"Great, thanks to the fandom for this ship, somebody is about to unalive themselves. Are you proud of yourself, Anons, that harass anti-Fonses?" Second update, he changed his description and title to, "I won't be back, I'm sorry. So we are here now."
After anti-Fonses left Tumblr, another account, which was a pro-Fonses supporter, made a celebratory post titled "Anti-Fonses is dead," which was later taken down by the platform itself. Now by 2017, most fans stopped paying attention to shipping wars, and most of them just faded. But this was at the expense of the entire fandom, as it had been divided into these smaller niche subgroups that majorly made posts about the ships they supported. But even though the community had been divided, one thing they still agree on is how much the next person turned Undertale to an immoral collection of childhood trauma. Just like most fandoms, the topic of alternate universes is a major discussion for Undertale fans. A lot of fans create alternate storylines, or AUs for short, which are different plot lines from what the original game developer created. For example, in the Underswap alternate universe created by Popcorn Prince, who is a popular Undertale digital artist, all of the main characters in the game had their personalities and roles swapped. And there are many AUs in the Undertale fandom, some even with their own original characters that have gained a lot of popularity in the community. However, one AU artist that completely scares early Undertale fans is Blog the Great Rogue, but we'll be calling her Rogue for short. Rogue started as a Tumblr fan artist, and around 2016 she started gaining popularity for her shipping artworks and her Q&A arts, which involved her followers asking questions about her original characters, and she would draw them answering the questions. Rogue's art was impressive, and most of it involved merging characters from different universes, but the issue was that most of her content was not safe for work stuff, involving very explicit artwork. Now, one of her more popular AU comics was called Bendy and the Quest for the Ink Machine, where she combined Cuphead and other classic cartoons like Mickey Mouse, Felix the Cat, and Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. The comic was a hit among young fans back then, and it ran for 3 years. But when Undertale came out in 2015, Rogue was among many others who loved the game, and also added it to her list of art concepts. However, among all of Rogue's works, there are 3 main comics that the Undertale fans notoriously remember her for: PJ's Daycare, Jamie's Love, and the Nerd and Jock AU. Paper Jam, or PJ, who's also an AU character created by a Tumblr artist called 7 Good Angel, runs a daycare, where he takes care of other AU characters from the fandom. PJ's Daycare follows Rogue's regular Q&A format, and in one of the scenes, one of the characters, Arrow Sans, who's inspired by Sans from the game, gets very sick and goes to the hospital. But his older brother Geno, a version of Sans from the genocide route, wasn't aware of his brother's condition, so he believed Arrow Sans had died, and that it was his fault, and concluded that the only way to redeem himself was to take himself out of this world as well. As crazy as this sounds already, the fact that Geno is still a daycare level toddler and is already so eager to unalive himself makes the entire story even more disturbing. When PJ gets to the cliff, instead of trying to talk Geno out of the entire situation, like in real life scenarios, he yells at him, before revealing that his brother was alive. Geno, who is now calmed down, leaves the cliff's edge and hugs his brother. Rogue's AU comics created very uncomfortable plotlines from the Undertale game, And it gets even weirder in the Jammy Stuff comic, where Paper Jam, or Jammy, who's a minor at the time, falls in love with Mr. Fresh, a cool version of Sans in his mid-20s. The huge age difference made the entire plot unsettling, and for most of the comic, Paper Jam refers to Fresh as Mr. Fresh, which further makes it obvious that he understands that it's not normal to be with someone that old. There are multiple scenes where Rogue draws intimate moments of the two, and in one scene, Fresh even falls asleep during one of the intimate moments, and Paper Jam opens his mouth and does some inappropriate stuff. And if you think these plots couldn't get even more disgusting, in the third AU, the whole story revolves around a nerd named Goth, and a jock or popular kid named Pallet, who's also a shipchild of two other Sans AU characters, Ink Sans and Dream Sans. Now Pallet and Goth like themselves, but Pallet isn't ready for a relationship or anything serious. However, Goth loses control of himself and forcefully has his way with Pallet. Some days after, Goth starts to regret all of it and tries to take himself out of this world, but Pallet comes to stop him and immediately calls for help. And then Goth asks her why she was calling for help, like she didn't want him to die. Pallet, who is already manipulated at this point, then replies,
"What are you talking about? I never wanted you to check yourself out of this world. That idea never even crossed my mind. Sure, I was extremely mad at you for what you did, but it's not like I never wanted to do that with you. I tried to stay loyal to our friendship, but you're just so dreamy. I thought maybe someday we can be lovers. I wanted to take things slow before, that is why I was shocked by what happened. I don't know if you remember, but I didn't really fight back or even call for help when you did that to me, because it wasn't just anyone that did that, it was you, and it made me feel safer. You don't have to feel bad anymore. I'm glad you were the one to take my V. I love you, Goth."
Not only did Rogue make the fact that Pallet was completely used or insignificant, she made him sympathize with the perpetrator and accept what happened to her like it was normal. Now, what made the comic even more problematic was that most of Rogue's viewers were not of age either, so being exposed to this kind of content could potentially condition them to believing that this was the kind of reaction a person who experienced such a traumatic event should have. Now, this isn't peculiar to only this comic. In most of the comment sections that talk about her old content, you can see most people in the comment section talk about how they didn't understand these things back then, because they were way too young.
I was about to when I found these comics, and it was definitely a big contributor to me letting myself get harassed online. Normalizing these dynamics is predatory and disgusting. A guy who took advantage of me made me read these comics when I was. He made me think these filthy things were normal, and it took literally years for me to notice they weren't. Thank you so much for talking about this. The way these topics were portrayed in the comics is just disgusting.
When all of this controversy reached Rogue, her response made it clear that she didn't unknowingly make all of this, and was in fact aware of what she was doing. In a very long Tumblr post, she wrote,
"I ain't fazed by any of this, especially after 2016. A lot of poor souls that used to be on Tumblr talk about their younger selves on YouTube, and how they just wanted to draw out of proportion, obviously deprived from reality just for giggles, and how they got beaten to pulp for it. That weird, obviously non-realistic always finds a way to become something political to these people. Like, are you all proud of yourself for almost ruining those people's lives just because they drew something you didn't like? Hell, most of them were kids when they first joined Tumblr. I'm lucky I was an adult when I joined the internet."
She then ends her long post saying,
"If you want to make a rant about something or someone you don't like, go ahead, but don't assume gross, creepy things because of it. Here's an example to think about. In the Undertale fandom, a lot, and I mean a lot of people, are into Foncest, aka Sans X Papyrus. Another ship I hate. And they are brothers. Think about it. Do you really think that all those people are actually into sibling intimacy?"
For a long time, most of Rogue's content remained on the internet, until 2018, when a lot of her content was removed from Tumblr, after the platform announced a ban on adult content in 2018. Rogue might have completely altered a lot of innocent childhoods, but this next person's case is a systematic spiderweb of manipulation and taking advantage of people, all under the disguise of a video game community. Shay was one of the most popular Undertale and Deltarune content creators of the early 2020s, and was well known for the ironic frog-faced persona. But while Shay was cementing their name as one of the biggest Undertale YouTubers, what they were doing behind the scenes was far worse than anyone imagined. They started making videos on YouTube in 2017, particularly speedrun content, which was made popular by streamers like Summoning Salt and TGH. Now, when they started making speedrunning content, they actually played The Legend of Zelda, but then around 2021, they decided to switch to Undertale and Deltarune speedrun videos. And it didn't take long for them to become famous in the community, and in just 4 years, they had amassed over 350,000 subscribers on YouTube, and about 50,000 on Twitch. They also took part in multiple public speedrun tournaments, and in 2021, they became the world record holder for the fastest completion time of an Undertale genocide campaign, with a total time of 1 hour, 4 minutes and 21 seconds. Now, Shay was also active on online Undertale communities, where they made Undertale meme art, had a piano cover playlist of soundtracks from the video game, and collaborated with various Undertale mod developers. However, on November 18, 2025, Shay would do something that nobody predicted, and it would go on to destroy their reputation overnight. Out of the blue, they went offline on their social media accounts, including the Discord speedrunning service that they owned. and the next day, they left the Calamity mod developer team as well, that they had been a part of since 2024. Now a lot of fans were confused, and a couple of them started making threads on Reddit, trying to understand what really happened to them. So the very next day, another popular Undertale speedrunner, known as Willie J, posted a statement to the community on Twitter.
We're aware of the concerns over the current state of Shay's community, including but not limited to them stepping down from various leadership positions in UT/DR speedrunning communities. Due to the sensitive nature of this, we cannot disclose more information about this at the moment. We're working behind the scenes and we will be able to share more information with you in the near future.
But this just raised even more questions than answers. And so just 2 days later, Willie J returned to Twitter and made a post that completely shook the Undertale community.
While in the community, Shay has committed reprehensible acts including taking advantage of multiple fans and harming their now ex-partner. They're an active danger to the community.
And Willie J then revealed Shay's crimes with a 262-page long expose of proof attached to the tweet to back up his claims. The document contained 29 separate sections, testimonies from victims, former friends, and people Shay had manipulated or taken advantage of. Each section included chat logs, screenshots, and detailed accounts of what happened. The preface of the document reads,
"We, a collective group of Shay's victims and former friends, accuse Shay of actions including but not limited to non-consensual acts, taking advantage of people, orbiting fans until they're of legal age, and pressured intimacy. We're releasing this document because we feel that Shay's actions pose a present and extreme safety risk to the community, such that people need to be aware to protect themselves. In this document, you will find a collection of our stories, statements, and supporting evidence to these accusations. Shay himself has already admitted to the actions, detailed in the testimonies from Anonymous 1, Azurath, Anonymous 3, and Willie J, to the victims themselves in private."
I can't go over the entire document because it's too long and I don't want to get demonetized. But the first case in the document is by Shay's ex-partner, known on the internet as Star Smiley. Shay and Smiley became a couple around 2019, and from the beginning, Star had been clear about her boundaries because she is asexual, which means that she experiences little to no intimate attraction to others. And Shay, who's non-binary, agreed to respect these boundaries when they started dating. She asked Shay to not initiate anything intimate, and Shay agreed. To accommodate this, Star claimed that she was okay with Shay having intimate partners outside of their relationship. But according to Star, Shay took advantage of that arrangement and, in quote,
"handled it poorly. As I mentioned previously, I agreed that they could have intimate contact with others, and did not specify that they had to tell me when it happened, or who it was with. I did not expect them to be having this behavior with nearly 20 people, nearly constantly, throughout the entire relationship."
And from other victim testimonies, Shay can be seen repeatedly brushing off any conversation that asked about Smiley, or if Smiley was comfortable with them talking with Shay. Then one night, while they were in bed together, Shay started doing something to Smiley inappropriately without her consent. And when Smiley confronted them, Shay claimed that they were testing whether Smiley really was asexual. And this, of course, left Smiley completely distraught. Smiley also revealed that Shay was very distant and would rarely interact with her despite knowing that she was suffering from depression, and that they also had a phone addiction problem. And on top of that, Smiley would also accuse Shay of being emotionally distant. Now when Smiley finally ended their relationship, she moved back in with her parents, without telling Shay, since she knew that they wouldn't let go. And she was right. When Shay called Smiley's mother afterward, they admitted to her mom that they would have tried to stop Smiley from leaving. The next testimony in the document was from a girl named Aspen, who Shay had befriended. At the time, Aspen was not of age, while Shay was already 22. But this didn't stop them from flirting with Aspen nonetheless. And as the two grew closer, Shay would always make these inappropriate comments about Aspen's body. And then in 2022, during a gaming convention that they both attended, Shay sent Aspen a shirtless photo while the two were seated next to each other on a bed. And the moment Aspen turned 18, Shay's behavior shifted even more. Their advances became more aggressive and more explicit. They would only text her when they wanted to talk dirty, and according to the document, this was a pattern across multiple victims. Then during the GameStun Quick Convention of 2025, Shay invited Aspen to their room while they were alone, and got intimate with her even when she clearly didn't want it, although Aspen didn't complain because she was scared of upsetting Shay.
When I went up to their room under the pretense of hanging out, they took advantage of me. They made advancement and pushed me to do things I was not comfortable with, but I did not feel safe saying no given the context, the power they had over me, and the fact that I was alone with them. At the time I was vulnerable given unrelated things in my personal life, and it led me to not really realize what had happened until I looked back on it a few days later. For the rest of the events, they barely responded to me. I sent around a dozen messages and they gave me one single cat emoticon and a LOL, ignoring almost everything I said to them, and all the while acting like nothing happened when we were around each other in person.
And then there's the case of a person who's only referred to as Anonymous 1 in the documents, but I'll be calling them Sage. His first contact with Shay was in late 2023, after Shay reached out to him to compliment an art that he'd made. The two slowly grew closer, and Shay managed to keep the conversation as platonic as possible. But this wouldn't last long, as when Sage turned 18, Shay became much more flirty with their messages, and called him a good boy in one instance. On one occasion, Shay also asked him for a photo of his backside as proof that it was actually big, which he sent. Now this was very disturbing because they knew that Sage was also asexual and pushed anyway, just like with Smiley. According to Sage, he was enjoying his relationship with Shay, not only because it fulfilled his fantasy of dating an older person, but because they were also somebody he looked up to, which made it pretty special for him. Then in May of 2025, Sage made a post on X about wanting to get intimate, but Shay immediately translated that as an invitation for intimacy directed to them, and so they began to bug Sage about performing the acts he described in the tweets with them, and in response, Sage continued to brush Shay off, but they simply refused to back down and continued to behave inappropriately. Sage then explained that his post wasn't meant to be intimate, but Shay made it clear that their intentions absolutely were. This made Sage upset, because again, he was asexual, and Shay knew about it. And when Shay noticed that the whole thing was going too far, they quickly apologized and claimed that it was simply a joke. Now by late August 2025, Sage had actually heard enough stories from other victims, so he sent Shay a lengthy message calling out the inappropriate behavior and setting clear boundaries, to which Shay then responded this.
These past few weeks and especially these past few days have been incredibly sobering for me. I frankly truly did not realize the impact of the things I was saying. You're completely right. I want you to know that. You're completely right. After I got over the initial sting and suddenness of your message to me a few weeks ago, I really started thinking and processing and just laying it all out for myself. I'm sorry that wasn't clear in my responses to you, because I was still reeling over the shock of it all. But you're right. You have every right to feel this way, and yet you have shown me compassion by sending this to me, giving me closure on it, and that means a lot to me. I'm going to write my response in multiple bits. I don't have the energy at the moment for a long message, sorry. I just want to say I'm so incredibly sorry. And so incredibly sorry for not realizing what I was doing to you, how it made you feel, how it must have felt coming from me.
But even after this apology, Shay would then immediately blame Sage for hurting their feelings by confronting them at night when they were tired. They claimed that Sage and other victims were making them hate themselves. And this wasn't all, as Sage was just one of the 21 victims who came forward, with another one, Anonymous 11, who I'll be calling Ben, stated that during a gaming convention they attended in 2023, when Shay went in for a goodbye hug with Ben, they picked him up from the ground and pressed their private part against him. Then during another convention in 2025, when Shay went to visit Ben in his hotel room, they tried to force Ben to lie down next to them and even pulled him down to the bed. However, Ben was lucky that his partner, who was also in the room, managed to come to his rescue. One of Shay's former friends, Audrey, also claimed that right after she had a breakup, they and Shay attended the GameStop Quick convention in 2023 together. Shay was aware that Audrey was at a vulnerable spot and used it as an opportunity to get extremely touchy with them. During one time, Shay asked Audrey to cuddle with them and felt up her backside without her consent. And to make matters worse, Audrey was way younger than Shay and had only turned 18 then. And Anonymous Victim 3, who I'll be calling Jay, claimed that during a convention while they were both in her friend's room, Shay came to lay with them on the bed they were on and forcefully cuddled with them, even when Jay made it clear that they wanted their space. Shay then pressed their third leg against Jay's leg, and when Jay voiced out their confusion, Shay acted like they didn't understand what they'd done. Now Shay later debunked Jay's story and claimed that they were only trying to see what was on their phone. Now, hours after Willie J's document went live, another Undertale creator named Gibbles GD released her own 15-page document detailing her and her partner Ava's experience with Shay. According to Sibbles, while a lot of people believed she and Shay's relationship was strictly based on Undertale-related topics, she claimed that they also had some sort of flirtatious connection that was initiated by Shay. Sibbles also claimed that Shay would often ignore work conversations and only pay attention when she was being flirty. At the same time, Sibbles' partner, Ava, who was a YouTube editor, was looking for work and eventually got hired by Shay, but they would constantly ignore Ava because she only cared about conversations when they were flirty too. Shay also provided very little material for her to work with, and on some occasions she would have to beg Shay to reply to her. So since Sibbles knew how to get Shay's attention, she would decide to offer Shay an explicit photo in exchange for answering Ava, and they immediately agreed. But even after she did what Shay wanted, Shay didn't give Ava the materials until the last day of July, despite her asking for it before July even started. Now, even though Sibbles consented to send this photo, it was out of desperation. And in the chat, she clearly tells Shay that she and Ava really needed the money, which means that Shay clearly knew that they were practically granting a favor in exchange for explicit content. Then in the doc, Sibbles, who's dyslexic, revealed that she once made a post asking people to stop spamming the "I can't read, I'm an Undertale fan" meme in her comment section. And when she told Shay to help her out with the situation, Shay told her that they couldn't because they actually created the meme and didn't want people to stop using it. Shay simply didn't care about the fact that Sibbles was getting hate online and only wanted their meme to keep going viral even if it meant that her friend kept getting hurt. They also asked Sibbles to delete a tweet where she complained about the meme. And when all this came out, a lot of fans simply couldn't stomach how evil one person could be. And so within minutes of the document going public, Shay appeared in a Discord server and admitted to practically everything and simply said that they were taking a break from the internet to seek professional help. And there have been no updates on Shay since.